What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another live stream on the Ben Thomas Show. We are back for Let's Get Nuts. I'm joined by a couple of unique characters in the back room. I honestly feel like it's the start of a joke. I've got a British guy, an Irish guy, a United States guy, and a Canada guy. So you guys think of the jokes that you can let me know in the comments down below after the fact. But today we're going to talk a little bit about the Jesse ARC Trooper. Very excited there. We're going to talk a little bit about Thunderbolt Ross and Liv Tyler coming back, as well as fan casting for Wonder Woman. Who might be the next Wonder Woman if Gal Gadot is gone, as well as a couple other Hot Toys releases and some 6-scale releases. But with that said, of course, thanks for joining us again for Let's Get Nuts. Let's get it going here.
Come on, let's get nuts.
I give you Ben Thomas.
Showdown.
Here we go.
We are back. So, first guest here, and we've never had him on the Ben Thomas Show before. We've got Chris from Small Talk over on Collecting Weekly. Thanks for joining, good sir. Definitely appreciate you being here.
Hey man, nice to be here. I've been chiming in a little bit on CW. I did a Pose Wars and last few episodes of Small Talk, and I've been having fun over there with those guys.
What got me was when I heard you on Small Talk the other day say that you're a Star Trek guy. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna bring you on. Like, I mean, it's just the way she goes, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. I don't collect Star Trek, but I will defend it to the
fair.
death.
That is fair. I need some support, okay? I'm getting canceled on these other channels.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I just watch Zach and Dean like just shut down as extroverts. When you start
They just
mentioning
lie.
Star Trek, they
They
just
just
close
blank
off
over.
and they're like, "Yep,
It's
it's a thing that exists." All right.
We've also got our Irish friend from another country here, good sir, Mr. Shane from 1-6 Figure Focus. Welcome also to the first time on Let's Get Nuts, good sir. When I heard from you the other day, I was pretty excited that you were going to be here. Now, you did give me the caveat that you might have had a few drinks today. So tell me how your day's been, good sir.
I had two, and then I had my dinner, so now I'm back to normal. But I'm
Hate
going
to
to have
see
two here now, so no, I'll be in semi-good behavior.
I would say we have at least a good hour and 30 minutes of tipsy times. So.
Yeah. This is the best. This is the best. This is the
That's
best.
fair.
I know it's nice to have a show on a Sunday. I don't have work for the next 2 weeks. I'm on holidays, so it's like you're the first person to hit up going, yes, I'm going to do this. Because, I just like streaming with you. That's pretty much it.
I definitely appreciate it. We need my Dark Knight buddies here, and when Marco's not here, I need somebody else that can fill that gap, and you do it very well, good sir.
Thank you.
In a-
But speaking
in a
of Dark
hot
Knight
way.
buddies, did you see the abuse that Joao gave that figure?
Yes, I did. I had a bit of a heart sink.
Yeah.
Let's get Pete in here. We got Mr. Pete from OFAC, or Only Fools and Collecting, over on Collecting Weekly. Our British regular, I want to say, almost at this point, Pete. I think you've been on
Yeah.
every show so far. So
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, it's great. It's lovely to be on a truly international show here. We've got 4 different nations, and it's also lovely to see that a typical teacher, the first Sunday when they haven't got work the next day, he's half cut.
you love to see.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. And by the end, I will be
And
full cut.
That's amazing.
And Ben, I'm also a massive Star Trek fan, so you're in very good company here.
Thank you, guys. I don't know about you, Shane. I don't think you're a Star Trek guy, are you?
Klingons.
Oh my
No,
god. Okay.
no.
And he's out. That's it. That's
Yeah.
Okay, just like, no, I'm not. But I wasn't a Sopranos fan when it was on TV. But every time it was randomly on, even though I didn't know about what was going to happen the previous episode or whatever, it had this ability to draw you in that the episode was like, a coherent episode. It did link to the previous and what was to come, but I thought that was a real skill. And I find with Star Trek, it's kind of like that as well. So I grew up on, I believe it was Next Generation, would that be right? Picard?
That would make sense, yeah.
And there was one episode where the episode went in a loop. It was like, the episode started 3 times. I was like, what is wrong with the TV? But they were in a time warp, and I was like, that is mind-blowing writing. And I always remember that episode as being, that is so clever and ballsy that they did it. So, no, I'm not a Star Trek fan, but I do appreciate the writing.
I'm going to send you a list of episodes that you should watch because there's a lot that you can just totally pass on. But there are some
will
that
do
are
that.
just absolutely amazing.
I will do that. But if I buy one Star Trek figure, I will come to Canada, and I will find you. So I actually get Chris shit before the show. So that's karma. That's on me.
It's got Liam Neeson on you for some reason.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I will find you.
Yeah.
and I would take the extra 6 money.
Oh my god. And for those of you guys that don't know what Shane was talking about just before I brought Pete in with regards to our buddy Joao over our Big Bretta, I think it was, what was it, on Friday Night Show, so LWO.
Yeah.
Did he throw that Bane?
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. What a guy. I might literally have to block him. I respected his capacity in the past, but
Did it for the
I
clicks.
don't know. He did it for the clicks.
Yeah.
Went
I
full
believe
Harrison
he
Ford.
whispered to him something like, "It will be painful for you before you shoot." Like, yeah, so.
Which is crazy, but I think he also had some, like, I know he'd had some, like, wearing and on his jacket, and I think some paint transference on the skin of his Bane. I still have
It does
Bane.
now.
Well, right,
Yeah.
and a dent in the face.
And the head kept falling off, I think, yeah.
I still love my Bane 1.0. So for anybody out there that still has a Bane 1.0, don't let Joao's opinion of that character sway you. It's still a very cool figure. The 2.0 is better though, so I can't say much about that. So let's check in with the chat here, guys. See who's here. We had number 1 Hoth's hometown hero in the chat. Woo! Thanks for jumping in there, good sir. He said his girlfriend would, I think he said, cut his balls off if he did another live stream this weekend. I was like, that is pretty aggressive. So thanks for tuning in either way from the chat there, good sir. We have Mr. S Beam in the chat. Thanks for joining in, buddy. I appreciate it. We've got Tyria here. Hey, everybody. Feezy's figures. You want to get nuts? Come on. Absolutely. If you guys haven't been checking out Feezy Figures' channel as well, he's been doing some really great live streams and some content over on his channel, so definitely check that out. He's been pretty awesome. We got Mr. Danny Lee in the chat. You love to see it. We've got Daguito. Hello there. We also have 16 Figure Focus himself in the chat as well as in the panel. You'll love to see it. Joker J. Now, Joker J's been keeping me on point with my sensitivity training over at Collecting Weekly lately. I'm not that sensitive. I say the wrong things quite often. So thankfully, Joker J is keeping me in check. I appreciate the fact that he is here. What's up, people, he says. He says, hello to you there, Shane. We've got Mr. Mark P in the chat. Good to see you here as well. We've got Niculio, the great and powerful, the person who came up with the Let's Get Nuts show name, so definitely appreciate that. I've tried to send him swag, and he says he doesn't need anything for it. Maybe he just doesn't like my stickers. I'm starting to take it a little personally, I'm not going to lie. So, we have F. Wellington in the chat. Thanks for jumping in. Definitely appreciate it. Mr. Alvin J. He's the first person who ever sent the Ben Thomas Show super chat. So whenever I see him, I always remember that. That's something that will stick with me forever. Thank you for joining in, good sir. I definitely appreciate you being here. I know he's often got family time in on his Sundays, as well as Andre in the chat, evening all. So I think that's everybody for now. We'll touch base as more people start streaming through or joining in. But again, guys, thanks for being here. So today I do have a full show sheet, like I mentioned to you in the back stream there. And something that popped up to me, which I thought was really interesting this week, was Liv Tyler is joining the Captain America New World Order, reprising her role from 2008, The Incredible Hulk. Now, look, when I think back to 2008, honestly, it feels like a really long time ago at this point.
It absolutely was.
It was, right? But I remember seeing that movie back then and absolutely loving it. Now, I don't know how well it's aged, and I prefer Mark Ruffalo, I think, as Banner himself. But that was a pretty awesome movie. Now, with her coming back, it kind of creates more questions, I think, than it actually helps with. This particular version of the Hulk, I still think, was super powerful, one of the best versions of the Hulk we've ever seen. And slowly over time, we've seen kind of this retraction of his abilities. They've kind of nerfed him a little bit. What was it? Edward Norton, I think, was the original Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
And I know he was traditionally pretty difficult to work with. The other thing that we've seen already with the newer shows, especially She-Hulk, is the Abomination making his return. And I know a lot of people have been kind of upset about how they've changed his character. So Chris, I'll start with you on this. This film, did you like this movie, A? And B, are you excited to hear that Liv Tyler is reprising her role as Betty Ross? And what do you think that means for the MCU coming forward?
Well, first of all, I like this movie because it came out when the MCU didn't exist, so they tried to like actually like have impactful things happen in it. So it's like, it's really dynamic, but I must admit, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, I'm probably a bigger fan of the Ang Lee Hulk movie, which I'm sure nobody likes, but like that's just like, but when this came out, I felt like they were trying the slightest bit to like nebulously connect it to the Ang Lee movie. Like he starts out like hiding out in South America, for example, which is where he ended up at the end of the other movie. And like I think what's good about her coming back is it's sort of reinforcing the precedence that it's okay to recast these characters, which I wish they would do more often rather than killing them off and having a new character take the mantle of a specific hero, because it's tying back to the Edward Norton movie and trying to get people to I guess use their Disney Plus subscription to watch older films to some degree. But yeah, I like it, and I think they should recast some more heroes while they're at it.
I think you nailed a great point there, because when I found out that Edward Norton wasn't going to be the Hulk back then, I was like, okay, so how are they going to shift that character? Like who else could play him that would actually be badass? I agree with you. The Eric Bana Hulk from my childhood, I used to watch the shit out of that movie.
Dude, Nick Nolte like injecting his son with like mutating chemicals. Like you got a scruffy Nick Nolte shooting glowing syringes into his like 5-year-old kid, and then Nick Nolte turns into a lightning monster at the end. Like it's hard to put into words what is going on in that movie, but
100%.
Yeah.
But then like you think about some of the other cast that here, so like obviously rest in peace William Hurt. I mean, fantastic actor, wonderful presence. I thought he played Thunderbolt Ross perfectly, and I know that they're kind of positioning Harrison Ford as
what is going on there?
The next Thunderbolt Ross. Pete, tell me your thoughts on that Hulk movie and the recasting, but also what you're thinking is then the direction for some of these characters. Are these going to be like a new right? Is this going to be like a new universe version, or are they simply reprising their roles? Because keep in mind, with She-Hulk, they have referenced in the past this 2008 film. So to me, that tells me it's same universe, same canon, just recasting. What are your thoughts on Harrison Ford being Thunderbolt Ross taking over for William Hurt?
Why is he? When was he Red Hulk?
So this is a fan casted picture. I think this is for sure.
I love Harrison Ford, so I can't I'd be anything other than happy seeing him in stuff. I might be unpopular. I'm really excited about the indie movie, to be honest. I'm hoping for great things. It's funny because it's such a long time since I've watched The Incredible Hulk, and I didn't remember Liv Tyler was in it, so that's bad for me. I think it's quite good. I mean, I also did at the time. I'd liked the Ang Lee one. I liked the fact that like he was amazingly super powered. He could effectively fly by just doing like huge leaps. But I think the second one was probably a stronger film. But it's Tim Roth, isn't it? Does he become Abomination? Is it at the end?
Yes.
I get that that's a character from Marvel and stuff, but I'm personally not a fan of these films where the only way that they can have a protagonist that can face up to the main character is for basically them to become like a copy of it. And you see it quite a lot in movies, like Leave Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Big trope.
Incredible. Yeah, so that's the only bit of it that I don't really like, because I don't like that kind of narrative. But I think the cast was strong, and it's cool. I say Harrison Ford can do no wrong for me, really.
So I disagree with that, and that might be kind of an unpopular opinion. When I heard Harrison Ford was kind of being thought of to fill in for Thunderbolt Ross, as iconic as William Hurt is, just as an actor, he's very prolific. He plays that part, in my opinion, very well. Whereas I have a hard time separating Harrison Ford from Harrison Ford. Whenever I see him, I feel like it's him every time, no matter what role he seems to be in. And as a Thunderbolt Ross, yeah, he's got that kind of domineering personality. I could see it. I would love to see a Red Hulk. I think that would be really cool. What they did with She-Hulk, and kind of, I feel like missing the mark a little bit on that show, but also kind of missing the opportunity to revisit like Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. Like, they've skipped a lot of stuff that they could have really done there. The fact that they're kind of going in deep now with Thunderbolts, I think is kind of a unique positioning. I'm not sure why they're focusing their time and attention there if they've been willing to skip a lot of really like meaty content that could have kind of come from it. But when I think about Betty Ross, I agree with you, Pete, in the sense of like Liv Tyler in 2008's film. Maybe I just wasn't as prolific with my comic book reading back then, or what it was. I don't think I even realized she was Betty Ross, like Thunderbolt Ross's daughter. Maybe I just not remembering the movie well. I felt like I skipped that part in my brain. But Betty Ross in the comics obviously ends up becoming the Red She-Hulk, which is kind of cool. So the fact that they're bringing her back in, they're spending the money to bring her back in. Shane, do you think we could see a Red She-Hulk as well as the Green She-Hulk we've had now? Do you think that they're going to go this direction? Or do you think that they're really bringing her in just because the actors playing the Thunderbolt Ross character are aging out and they need somebody younger that they can kind of proceed with Thunderbolts on? What are your thoughts there?
I have absolutely no idea. To be quite honest with you, I'm not even going to spoof, but I've no idea. I do remember the Incredible Hulk. This movie, I don't think it's like a dud in the MCU. I don't think it's like oh god. Like I can name about 3 or 4 films off the top of my head or something like I find more difficult to watch than the Incredible Hulk. But I could be a bit biased because I really like Edward Norton. Fight Club, American History X, and
For sure.
25th Hour, Primal Fear. Like they're banger films. I really like the guy, and I like the way he's kind of weak. He doesn't look like he's not a muscular guy, and I think that's maybe more impactful. But I get why people didn't like it either. But Liv Tyler, like I like her as an actress. So I'd be interested to see what they do here, but I don't know. I'm not as familiar with the comic book lore, the history. Does she become like a red version of Hulk?
Yeah,
I know. Ross, he becomes Red Hulk, doesn't he?
Correct, and so does Betty Ross becomes the red.
So
She-Hulk in the comics.
it's like she's her father's daughter. She actually, that's funny. I don't know. Maybe they are setting that up. But the Harrison Ford thing. I agree with what you said, man. I do. I find it hard to separate Harrison Ford from Harrison Ford because he's Indiana Jones and he's Han Solo, and it's kind of like I'm watching Yellowstone in 1923 and 1883 and all the other dates at the moment. But in 1923, he's on a horse, and it's noticeably he's out of place. Like he looks every age of 78. On that horse, and like I know maybe equestrian people will watch it and they'll be like, no, that's how you ride a horse. But I reckon like is someone who's like 78 who's been on a ranch and ridden horses all their life will look a lot more natural than Harrison Ford looked on that horse. So
dude,
I think you put him. Did you watch 1923?
No, I've seen the trailers for it though, so it immediately made me laugh.
He doesn't look natural on the horse, put it that way, and. I don't think that's just because he's old. I think that's just because he's old and he doesn't grow up on a farm or he's not a equestrian or a horse riding person, whatever. And I think he could potentially look out of place in this as well. But I'm judging something that hasn't even been gone into production yet, so I don't know.
Well, and going back to what Pete said about Indiana Jones, so like I am looking forward to the Dial of Destiny as well. I will say,
me too.
I was definitely disappointed by Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I didn't like that they kind of alluded to the fact that Shia, right? I didn't love that aspect of it. When he gets, he avoids nuclear death from getting into a fridge that then shoots him across the desert, and he kind of gets out and he's not goo in that fridge. It's pretty impressive.
But Ben, you got to remember, like in the Indiana Jones universe, God is real. There's like aliens, there's cults that actually, interact with Satan in some way. A lot of stuff is real in the Indiana Jones universe. So,
Suspension of disbelief
Yeah.
is definitely a factor. 100%.
I'm excited.
I will
excited,
give
but
it
I'm
that.
so worried about it too.
They've got some really impressive de-aging technology now as well, and I've seen some clips of them de-aging him a little bit, which I think will help. I've got some theories on that film, but maybe we'll save that for a different stream. At the end of the day, if we get even a Red Hulk figure format 1/6 scale, I think I would buy the first version. One thing that I usually say to collectors that are thinking about buying like the first version of a character is like, maybe wait for the next one, maybe see what the films look like or their shows look like and stuff. But I wish I'd got the first Green Hulk, like the very first Avengers version of the Hulk, because in my opinion, he's slowly kind of downgraded slowly over the universe, and I feel like the Grail is now that first version. What do you
But
think?
maybe if they're smart, they're doing this on purpose because they're ticking a few boxes along the way, and it look like they're nerfing him, and then maybe out of nowhere, they get
They
the
bring him
Hulk
back.
back into the most badass version of Hulk that you ever had.
I would hope. I mean, that would be pretty cool because they're like even like I can't remember what the heck his name is, but he looks like a granddaddy Hulk, and that is pretty cool in the comics. Let me know in the chat, guys, if you can remember what his name is as like the old man Hulk. He's got like a beard and a bun and everything. That's pretty cool. I would go with that too. But a Red Hulk, if it comes out, I will buy it. I don't even care. Mark my words on this Let's Get Nuts stream right now. Let's change gears because this popped up now. I will say, this is an absolute fan casting. This is one of those CGI, chat GBT images that's floating around the internet lately. But it got me a little bit because I went and saw Shazam 2 by myself the other day. Had a little movie date with myself, got my Glossette nuts and my little pop and everything, and I watched Shazam 2, and I don't think it's a spoiler because it is in the trailer. Wonder Woman shows up, Gal Gadot shows up in that film, which honestly actually was one of my favorite parts of the movie, despite it being a very small segment of the scene. And I immediately came home and thought about purchasing the 1/6 scale version of her because she was badass. But we all have heard about DCU kind of revamping their universe. It's not been confirmed yet if Gal Gadot is going to be Wonder Woman still, or like, was this the last time we saw her with Shazam 2? Was that just already kind of contractually there? But Alexandra Daddario is an absolutely beautiful woman. Very powerful presence in terms of her acting chops. Everything that I've seen her in up till now has been fantastic. And seeing her kind of squashed into the this outfit of Wonder Woman, I gotta say, I am happy with the way this looks. So, my question for you, Pete, is this. If Gal Gadot is done, let's just say she's done, who should be the next Wonder Woman? Do you have anybody in mind, or do you like this fan casting? Is this something that you would support kind of going forward?
It's really funny because when I read the show sheet, it's about who we would suggest. That is my choice, and I just got up on my other screen in case that I didn't realise that she'd been. That's weird because that doesn't really look like her much. But
I think it's a computer generated image.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what does it say in the corner? Multiverse art or something like that.
Yeah,
It's definitely a render, but
she's incredible. She's my number one celebrity crush, beyond a doubt. I think from the first time when I saw her in The Lightning Thief, Percy Jackson, and she's just brilliant. And I think she would definitely be my number one choice because I think she's absolutely stunning. But also, as you say, she's got she's a great actress, and I think she'd bring some real kind of presence and power to the role.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So no, 100% agree.
F. Wellington says, "Is she that pale?" I have no idea, to be honest. I'm sure she tans well. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But I think as Wonder Woman, I can totally see it. One thing that I had pulled up when I heard about this was some of the Wonder Women that have been cast in the past. Some of these have actually come to fruition. Others obviously haven't. Chris, out of this list, you and I were talking about this a little bit in the back. Are there any ones here that you're disappointed we never actually got a Wonder Woman like show or movie out of? Or are you happy with what we ended up getting ultimately?
No, I think the weirdest thing about the current state of entertainment is the embarrassment of riches we have. Like you were saying earlier, you were talking about like the restarting the DC cinematic universe, and it's like, oh, what should we buy? Gal Gadot related collectibles because they're not moving on with her. And if you think about just like the amount of screen time she's had across what, like 7 films, like it's like if that meant anything to you, go ahead and like buy stuff related to it, right? Because like it's unfathomable amount of content compared to what people have ever had before. Like, you know what I mean? It's like why do you buy original trilogy Star Wars collectibles still? You're never getting anything that good from Star Wars ever again. So don't worry about whether it's relevant to new products. But this when I see this collage here, I start to realize that with possibly one exception, they don't veer too far off the template with the casting of Wonder Woman. It seems pretty consistent here, which leads me to believe that they will not go with a fan casting like this because it's almost too on the nose for the current year, if I had to guess.
That's fair. I mean,
Yeah.
Niculio in the chat here says they should cast relatively unknown. And I kind of agree with that take as well. Sometimes it can be hard to kind of jump on board with somebody you don't know, but if you get a chance to kind of what feels like grow up with that character as they progress through their journey with us and you get to know them more, they can be amazing. I still remember some of the first times I saw Henry Cavill or Chris Hemsworth or like tons of actors in their first roles, and I was like, who the heck is that guy or who the heck is that gal? They were awesome, you know? And then, of course, they start becoming more and more popular, and they become these household names. And when you're playing an iconic character like Wonder Woman, I feel like as long as you can bring something to that role, something that's like either character, beauty, confidence, all of the things, you can have a very successful film without having an A-lister star in the role. Like, I didn't realize Colby Smulders was cast as a Wonder Woman.
What is that, Smallville? I don't know what that is.
I don't know where that particular crap comes from, but like for me, I think of like How I Met Your Mother whenever I see her, right? You know, Robin Sparkles. Like I didn't know she was going to be a Wonder Woman. I didn't realize that Adrienne Palicki was in the running for being a Wonder Woman. Again, all of these people really look the part, despite the age of it. So Shane, I guess the same question I have for you is, do you think this should go to somebody like Alexandra Daddario? Should it go to an unknown? What would your take be? What would you want to see out of this new version or new universe from James Gunn?
Well, first of all of these women are someone's daughters, guys. Come
Absolutely. We've been respectful. They're all lovely.
I'm completely joking. They're Kristen Ritter. I thought that one, Jessica Jones. I thought she'd make I could see her in the Wonder Woman gear, like, but at the same time, I think they should cast someone unknown, someone who just will earn the kind of role and grow into the role, and someone you might know or hear of or anything like that. I think that's the best way to go, to be honest. Like, especially if they're doing a reset. I'm kind of a bit biased because I didn't really care for the DCEU movies. So when I like the Man of Steel and I like Henry Cavill as Superman, but more so in the Man of Steel. Mm-hmm. And maybe aspects of Batman vs Superman, but I don't particularly like the DCU movies, so it really doesn't make any difference to me. So if they do a reset, which they're planning on, or it's kind of confirmed that they're getting rid of Gal and they're getting rid of Cavill and they're getting rid of The Rock and whoever else, if they're going to do a recast, just take unknowns. Just take unknowns and build something from the ground up, and I don't know, maybe it'll be better. Or I don't know. I think maybe that's something for me. It's a very selfish attitude, mm-hmm. But like a lot of people like love the DCU and they're sickened because all those people are gone. But from the point of view of someone who I don't really mind either way, the only advantage of them keeping those actors on would be that it makes some of my friends who like those movies happy, and I can see that. But I suppose everything has to progress. Keaton's no longer, I was about to say Keaton's no longer Batman, but that's a bit of a silly statement, isn't it? But you know what I mean, like things don't, there probably will never be another Bale Batman, there's just probably never going to be another Batfleck apart from like after the Flash and stuff like that.
For sure.
So yeah, I hope they pick an unknown, and I hope she does a good job, and I hope the reset produces better movies than the DCEU were, in my opinion.
I love that take. I think it's interesting how fan casting even just goes in general, right? Like with social media now, everybody is allowed to have this opinion or feel like they're entitled to have an opinion. You know, when you think back to, and Mr. Mom Collectibles in the chat he says, Happy Sunday, all. I thought of him because when you think about Keaton, right? I mean, he was Mr. Mom. He was a small guy. When he was cast as Batman, people like lost their shit. They were like, I don't know, we don't really see it. Like, Mr. Mom, like, what? And then he ended up being a badass Batman and a lifelong favorite for a lot of people. Heath Ledger's Joker was the same way for me, especially when I found out Pattinson, when I found out Heath was going to be the Joker, I remember laughing. I remember thinking like Brokeback Mountain. I'm thinking A Knight's Tale. I'm thinking 10 Things I Hate About You.
10 Things I Hate About You.
Right? I'm like,
I love you, baby.
100%. And that guy as the Joker made me laugh, cry, have an emotional roller coaster that is ended up, like, if I had to get rid of every hot toy figure I have in my collection and only keep one, it would be his Joker. And same thing, Pattinson, all of the above. So I think it's interesting that fan casting has become such a topic for people. At the end of the day, I don't really care who they cast as long as the content is good. Like, make the content good. Make sure it stays in the oven long enough that people like what they're watching. And I don't think it will necessarily matter who does the job.
That's a great point, because at the end of the day, if you have a good story and well-written characters and script, everything else that works around that will make the movie stronger. Yes, good, lighting, good sound engineering, good score, good sound effects, good action sequence, good choreography. But at the end of the day, a good story, an interesting story with good, well-developed characters and script and dialogue, that's kind of your core storytelling, really, isn't it? And everything else can make it better, and good performances can make that better and all that. But if you don't have the foundations, it's
well, and I think that's what DCEU fans are needing right now, right? They just need a film that's well written. It's well written. Then it's the acting. Joker J says it perfectly in the chat here. That's exactly how it should go. Like, if it's well written, people will watch your content and they will love it.
But it's very strange because sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, it's okay.
Like, I still maintain some of the best comic book inspired movies come from DC. That Pattinson Batman was a great film. Obviously, you know how I feel about the Dark Knight trilogy or the 89 and 92. But when they tried to interconnect it, it just felt rushed, and I don't know. I don't think it worked.
Well, even some of the DCU animated content is some of the best superhero content I've ever watched. Under the Red Hood, amazing. If you have missed that, watch it. Like, it's so good. Mask of the Phantasm. I'm blanking on some of the others.
Dark Knight Returns.
Dark Knight Returns. Flashpoint Paradox. Like, for those of you guys who are getting excited about the new Batman Flash film coming, go watch the animated Flashpoint Paradox.
Watched it last week.
Is a great watch. That's a great watch. Let me interrupt you guys really quickly here. Mr. Alvin J with a $9.99 super chat. Thank you so much, good sir. He says, with the franchise being rebooted, would an unknown be ideal? I agree, it would be fine, but the financial backing behind the franchise might disagree. There's a lot riding on the reboot, and...
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Thank you, Alvin J. I appreciate that, good sir. That is a good question. It comes down to money, right, boys? And, like, I think we all recognize that. Chris, what are your thoughts on Alvin's comment there? Like, do you think that in order for a film to be successful and get that financial backing, they actually need an A-lister? Does that make sense?
I think we see all kinds of examples of that not working out. I think that, like, a recent one is like when they try to get Tom Holland to be Nathan Drake in Uncharted. Like, they're like, we'll get him in there young, we'll do 3 or 4 movies, everybody will love it, he'll sort of grow into the character. But the mistake is that it has to work on the first movie, and you know, that one wasn't a huge success. So I think you know, they need to it's so easy for us to say, like, you know, nail the casting and make an amazing movie, and the reality is these guys think they're doing that every time, but for whatever reason it's not the case. I don't know, it's interesting.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned the Tom Holland one, because after the success of The Last of Us, I know Pete and I have talked about, you know, our enjoyment of that show and the games. Uncharted games from Naughty Dog were some of my favorite games of all time as well. And I almost feel like it's a shame that they went the movie route with the Uncharted series, because it could have been a really like meaty television show for all of the adventure and kind of like, I want to say, like the Indiana Jones style of content that Uncharted really is. That could have made an amazing HBO show, but the fact that they kind of went that movie route and squished it into the 2-hour runtime. I love Tom Holland. I think he's a great actor, but I didn't see him as Nathan Drake. To me, it didn't resonate. I know that the fan casting, going back to fan casting, has been Nathan Fillion for years, but that guy looks so much like Nathan Drake, like it hurts my soul that the guy didn't get the chance. I don't know, Chris. All right, I should say, Pete. Like, do you feel like the Uncharted series should have gone the way that The Last of Us did, like that direction?
Yeah, 100%. I was really disappointed with the movie.
For sure.
It was exciting. It's one of those things that's been in production hell for such a long time, and obviously Mark Wahlberg was originally going to be cast as Nathan Drake, and it took so long to get it to on film that obviously he became Sully in the end because he's too old for Nathan Drake. But no, it was disappointing, and I think. Towards the end, it just got kind of like comic book silly, and I know these films, these franchises, there's a fair bit of like disbelief and stuff like Indie and everything, but yeah, it just very disappointing, and I think that they are going to struggle to build a franchise off of that. So, and I think and also Tom Holland has just become. I'm not saying he's typecast, but he's become so well known as Spider-Man, and he's really got into that role that I found it hard to kind of see him in that in a different role. Really,
it was a little close together. It was a little
exactly. That's the thing.
Yeah,
True. So yeah, it's a bit of an overlap kind of thing there. So and as you say, it probably would have been much better as a TV series. And we find that we know that like over the last 10 years, quite often TV has blown away movies in terms of the and obviously it has the opportunity. It's a different medium, and it has a lot more time to tell stories and develop characters and everything. But
for sure.
The movie was disappointing.
Well, and then like one last thing that I'll say, and then we'll move on to the next topic here, guys, is this comment here, Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam. I think that's a great example, Niculio, of, a film feeling like in order to financially back it, they need an A-lister star. Mm-hmm. And then the movie comes out, and it gets pretty lukewarm reception overall. I mean, I didn't love the movie. It was okay. I don't think I'd watch it again. I don't even necessarily want to collect from it. But then you think about Chris Reeves' Superman. Somebody else mentioned that in the chat earlier, that Chris Reeves was a relatively unknown actor before he became Superman. And because of the writing, because of the time period, because of what we got to see on screen for the first time as Superman like that, he exploded, and it became a sensation. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that is one figure in my collection that is seriously being missed. I don't want to go back very often and collect backwards very often, but if they don't remake a Reeves Superman here like sooner than later, I will rebuy. I'll pay the money and I'll get it, because by far one of my favorites in the collection. Guys, let's switch gears a little bit here. Thank you for that, by the way. That was a great chat. I enjoyed that quite a bit. We got a chance last week to touch very briefly, Pete, when we were together on the Wasteland Ranger. At the time, we really only had the picture on the left with him being behind the face mask. I know at the time you were saying not necessarily for you. It's not one that you necessarily want to collect. But Pete, tell me what your thoughts are on the figure now that we're actually getting a chance to see like what it actually looks like. And before you start, I will say Marco on 16fix pointed this out to me on Tuesday and the guys at Collecting Weekly, that this is actually another version of what looks like the same character from the past. So like we've actually had this figure from a different company in the past, and now we're seeing it again. And that other one looks like exactly the same figure. Sounds like it's very much recast, same name and everything. Was going for some pretty crazy dollars. Now we get a chance to buy this one from Present Toys. Does this change your mind on the figure at all, Pete?
No, I think I said at the time that it looked like a decent figure. It's just not a movie that is kind of means enough to me to kind of have a representation on the shelf. But yeah, the head sculpt looks really good. You know, I can't fault that. I think it's a decent set. You get the nice, you know, you get a lot of gear. You got the seamless arms there, which, you know, a lot of figures are coming out with now, which are quite good. I mean, obviously they do limit you, because I've got a few of the World Box ones. I put some on indies and stuff like that, but they, you know, obviously they're very specific, and you got to know kind of what you want from that figure. But no, it looks really good, and obviously it's going to come in at a fairly good price point. So I think if you are like a massive fan of this movie, then yeah, it'd be a good pickup.
And coming in at $190, it's still a pretty decent price. I do agree with you, Pete. I like that seamless forearm look. I do really hope that we see more, just more figures in general from other figure companies giving us that as an option at the very least, right? Now, Shane, I know that your collecting habits are, you know, pretty strategic. You usually kind of follow a system of, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have to like the character, you have to like the film or the show that it comes from, and I can't remember the third. It has to be a good value. You can reiterate on that
version.
That version. Is this one that like resonates with you for those three rules or not?
No.
Interesting.
No. This movie came out, and I watched it, with my father, I think, like that. And I watched it. And then I came home for some weekend, and my father said, "Did you watch that new Mad Max movie?" And I said, "I did." And I said, I thought it was fine." And he goes, "That's not Mad Max." So he made me watch the other three movies. So it's like Mad Max 2, and it's Thunderdome number 3.
We're on Thunderdome,
and like, even though like, well, they're
Oh,
all pretty damn crazy now.
Fever dream of a movie.
There's no normal. There's like, they're gangs of maniacs, like. But he made me watch them, like, and like, even though the original 3 were very dated, I still kind of gravitated. I was like, I got where he was coming from. It was a simpler time. That was like that kind of raw dystopian kind of just the future, and it didn't have all the big spectacle effects, which obviously Fury Road did, and I won awards for. But I kind of like Pete on this one. Like, this movie doesn't really resonate with me. I'm not sure if I even went back to it for a second viewing. But with all the talk about it recently, I probably will. I actually don't think the head sculpt's that great. And I don't, it's just, I don't, maybe I'm being biased because I'm not into this particular movie. So no, it's definitely one I will be passing on. I will say one thing though, like, if you look at Tom Hardy, you got this movie, Dunkirk, Venom, and then Dark Knight Rises. A lot of those movies has his face covered up, like. That's pretty ballsy for a guy who was not fully bursting onto the scene. You know what I mean?
I love it. He's one of my favorite actors.
I like that.
100%. Did you ever see Bronson with him in it?
Yeah.
That was an epic film. It was really good.
Yeah.
There's a movie he's in where he's just him in a car. I think it's called Lock. It's just him driving a car for an hour and a half.
That's really good.
And it's one of those movies, some people will just hate it. It's like the Blair Witch Project. You either love it or you hate it. And he held my attention just talking on the phone for like an hour and a half. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's cool. I've never seen that movie. I might have to look that up. That reminds me of the phone booth with Colin Farrell back in the day when he was stuck in a phone booth the whole movie. Just the concept anyways.
Yeah.
You know what I think I would rather have in my collection, though, than this figure? Is Kevin Costner from Waterworld. That as like a post-apocalyptic film, even though it's not a very great movie either by any stretch. The Gills. As a kid, I watched that movie a ton. I thought it was such a cool concept of like what could happen as I said, post-apocalyptic world. And Kevin Costner is a badass, for sure.
He's looking fresh too. Like, the guy is 63, and in Yellowstone, he looks fresh. Like, he looks better on the horse than Harrison Ford, anyway.
I haven't seen Yellowstone yet. To me, it has such a boring title that I'm just like, I have a really hard time getting into it. But everybody that's said they've watched it has said they've loved it. So
I haven't watched a bad episode yet.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm sucked in.
Fair enough. I will watch a few episodes tonight, and then I will update you guys next time. Look at that. We've got the everyday collector, John, in the chat from Collecting Weekly. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. He says, look at the raw talent on this panel. Hey, guys. Good to see you here, man.
Oh, you.
For sure.
It's like the raw talent. Oh, no, Shane's here.
That's right. Chris, one last question for you, good sir. For somebody, I know you said you don't collect a ton of 1/6. You've dabbled in it a little bit. But obviously, we all have friends and family members who come into our collection rooms. Do you think that this is more of like a niche collectible? Is this something that people would even recognize who this character is supposed to be from? Or would you only know if you were a Mad Max fan?
Well, as you understand, most people are not nearly as cultured as us and don't appreciate these things, right? So what I can't believe is I just checked, and like this movie's already 7 years old, which is just blows my mind.
Wow.
But
actually,
the crazy thing about this though is that it is really truly spiritually Mad Max 4, whether you wanted an old Mel Gibson or not, because
Sure.
George Miller came back, and I just love it when an old director from the 70s and 80s like shows that they still have the chops and they can adapt to the modern way of shooting. Because like, you know what? It doesn't look like the old Mad Max. You have a CGI storm. You have guys playing guitar on trucks. It's amazing. It's a spectacle. I didn't dislike anything about it, and I thought that it's like if you watch those movies in succession, it's just sort of like, here's some tall tale that happened to Max, like in between one of these other movies. It just sort of works out that way, and I love everything about this movie, but no, I don't think the average person would recognize it. They don't recognize half the Star Wars characters in my collection, So
yeah, I mean, Shauna still thinks my Mandalorian is a stormtrooper, so I'm like, you're gonna get me canceled.
He's a spaceman.
That's right.
Shauna, this is not the way.
She's like, they all look exactly the same. I'm like, they do not look exactly the same. They have different color schemes. Okay. I don't know. For me, when I think about my collection, I still want those standout characters. While I do love this movie, I don't love it nearly as much as Marco at 1/6 Fixed. That guy really liked this movie, and it actually made his opinion of it made me want to watch it again. Instead, I watched Jurassic Park Dominion last night, which was not great.
Good Lord.
It was not good. So I wish that I'd watched this movie again instead of that one. Do not waste 2.5 hours of your life. And I apologize to anybody out there if they like Jurassic Park Dominion. Terrible movie.
I don't.
12-inch Moose Stream is here with us. Good to see you here, sir. He says, yo, yo, yo. Hello, community of collectors. Happy to see you in the chat, good sir, as well. Guys, let's take a look at this quickly. This is something that's caught me, it's caught my attention. I was a huge Mortal Kombat fan as a kid. I had the Sega Genesis. I played the Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 religiously. I gotta say, I never really got into Street Fighter all that much. I played it, but not to the same extent nearly as Mortal Kombat. I loved the violence of Mortal Kombat. I loved the characters. I even loved that first film, the Mortal Kombat movie, and there was a lot of good there. If these had been Mortal Kombat figures like we've seen now with the Sub-Zero and the Scorpion from, I can't remember which collectible company that is, I think I would have been more excited from it. When it comes to Street Fighter, the Ryu, or Ryu, depending on how you say it, has gotten some amazing results and feedback. That character looks amazing in people's collections, and that's one of those fear of missing out collectibles that exist in the world. It's not one that I feel like I need, but every time I see it pop up in somebody else's collection and they talk about how cool it is, I'm like, shit, I wish I'd bought it. I just kind of wish I'd bought it. I don't have a body in my collection. I don't have a body like this, I should say. I don't have a 1/6 scale figure body in my collection that looks anything like this. It would be so unique. One of the things that I was worried about was the longevity. But, I know, Pete, you did a fantastic interview, and please remind me of the person's name that owns this company. Andrew, thank you. Yeah. And I know that sold a ton of collectors on it. What is your take on the Ryu or the Ryu, and then this next collectible, the Ken, that's coming? Obviously, we don't see the face. But after chatting with him, is this something that you bought yourself, the Ryu, and are you thinking about buying this one?
I didn't. I was very, very tempted. I think the Ryu is a brilliant figure, and obviously, we went into lengths about the fact that they developed a unique body working with TB League. So yeah, you would, and they were very strong at not making it available as a body on its own. So that's kind of like one of its USPs, for buying that figure, is this incredible physique of the body. Just to put a quick shout in, we're hopefully going to have Andy on the show on the 6th. So next Thursday, to kind of talk about the full reveal, which obviously would have happened earlier in the day. So I'm really looking forward to that, seeing the head sculpts and everything. I was Street Fighter's my game. I think Mortal Kombat, it was on my radar, but I think to me it always felt a bit sensationalist, and I think its appeal was the fatalities and the gore and the brutality. Whereas I think for me, Street Fighter's always been the purer fighting game. And I'm a bit older than you guys, so I grew up. I had a SNES, and I had Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and I just played the shit out of that game. And I never got very good. I always wished that I was better at fighting games, but I always enjoyed it. I love all the characters. I mean, I hope that this goes well and that we start seeing some of the more. I mean, a Zangief to me would be incredible. I mean, the guy would be huge. But I think all the characters, they're really strong. So yeah, I was very tempted, but I didn't in the end, because I didn't want to kind of go down that route, and I've got quite a sort of specific focuses for my collection, but I absolutely love them. Brilliant, and I look forward to seeing all the future releases. But yeah, we'll be chatting with Andy next week. So
something you have to ask him, and I'm sure a lot of collectors need to know, is this body the same as the Ryu? Or the Ryu?
Yeah.
Is it the same body? Because like you said, they put some actual like science and technology and money into developing it. I can't imagine they're just going to step away from it and do that all over again.
I would guess it is, but obviously you've got like different hand sculpts and things like that. But obviously, there's probably they could probably reuse this body on a few other figures. But obviously, there's some that have got very, very unique body types. Dalsim, E Honda, things like that. And obviously, that's going to be another massive investment in that body and stuff like that. So. But yeah, I'm glad to see him doing it. Definitely.
100%. Make sure you send us the link so we can post it on our Instagrams for you to get some traction on that. Because Andy deserves some highlights, some showtime,
definitely,
and some FaceTime with collectors. He's clearly a collector himself. I appreciate that about that person in general, and I think his stuff so far is really good. There might be some longer wait times, but I'm willing to wait. If it's good quality, right? Like
because the American Psycho is nearing completion as well now. That's had some delays, but that should be out in the next few months.
I don't have that one pre-ordered, but again, that's one of those fear of missing out characters in the collection here. Shane, I didn't know that 12-inch Moose Stream is your nemesis. But he didn't know we know each other, which is crazy because you and I stream and we're like passing ships in the wind. We stream together quite a lot, so you have to follow us on every area you can. 12-inch Moose Stream, so that we can see you in all the chats. Good sir.
Crossover comics. Comic series
for sure. If I were gonna get a Street Fighter character, I think it would be Blanca that I would want the most. I mean, he's the character I played with the most, I would say, in terms of the games. Chris, are you a Street Fighter guy? Is this something that like would break your kind of 1/6 scale collection and come into the collection or not?
No, but I think it's like Pete was talking about when they had the owner of this company on. It's just good to see something new and different that actually required like a sort of radical innovation to get anything close to looking like the source material. I just wonder, like, I don't know a lot about the TB League materials and stuff, but I guess no one, like, I don't hear people seeming to be quite as worried about the seamless stuff from them as they do when like Hot Toys takes a crack at it. So I guess people aren't super worried about this. And how long have people had it now? I don't.
Only a few months, but obviously, Andy talked about having, leaving the figure in certain stress poses and stuff for long periods of time. I mean, I have got a few TB League bodies in my collection, and I've not seen any general degradation, but obviously, they are susceptible to the elbows, things like that. If you've got them posed with I've got a Conan the Destroyer custom, and you can the metal sort of joint in the elbow is poking through a little bit, but obviously you don't see that, it's round the back, but yeah, they come with risks, but I think this one's been tested to the nth degree, and I think as long as you're careful with it, then it should hold up. But I mean,
Right.
it very much depends on your environment as well, because I know that obviously people that live in more hot, humid climates, these things are a little bit more susceptible to degradation. But yeah, no, I think it'd be okay.
For sure. F. Wellington here in the chat says, I predict Iconic
Yeah.
also makes Guile with this body, which is
Yeah.
also a great call out. And kind of like we were saying, a good reuse of that science, technology, and dollar investment that's gone into this character. Last up, Shane, quick question for you then. If you had the choice and you could only get one Street Fighter character, would it be Ken, or who would you choose?
I like the way my answer was. I'm not a gamer. I won't be picking this up. Very clever. I'd say I go for the Ryu.
Cool.
To be honest, like just because I've just because it's out, and because I have yet to see somebody who has reviewed it and didn't love it. Everyone loves this figure. So
Yeah.
like Marco loves it, and I think Connor from Hot Toys Hotline loves it, and
Even Gigi really loved it. Marco's beautiful wife, Gigi, she said the body was very vascular and nice to look at and very pleasing to the eye. So your ladies out there, everybody, this could be a figure that comes to the collection.
I think
that's
Marco
supported.
said that she was poking Chi-Chi's. I think that's
my
what
God.
Marco
I
said.
would not surprise me.
I'm pretty sure Marco said that somewhere, so.
Right on. And speaking of Marco, actually, over on 16 Fix, he just hit 1,000 subscribers last night. Finally, very well deserved, good sir.
Well done, Marco.
Congratulations. If anybody in the chat, or of the 33 people that are watching, if you guys haven't followed 16 Fix after the show today, go over and give him the follow, so that or the subscribe, just to get him that comfortable threshold over. Because I know when I hit 1,000 subs, I didn't even want to tell anybody for like 5 days, just in case I lost a couple. So let's get him some cushion over there. The joke from Marco is that every time I tell people to go and sub to him, he loses a couple subs. You hate to see it. My effort is clear. I love you, buddy. So we've got Mr. Nick's Collectibles in the chat. What's up, guys? Unfortunately, Nick had to take his Royal Rumble down last week. I hope
Yeah,
you
I
guys
went
got.
looking for it,
Did you get a chance to watch it live, or any of it
No,
live?
no, I didn't, and I thought I was going mad
Oh.
because I couldn't find the thing.
Dude.
Was it like a copyright?
No,
or
I
something, or-
no, and I can't get into the details
Okay.
as to why.
Yeah.
But it was some of the best YouTube content I've
Yeah, I
seen
was
in a
looking forward to
very
it.
long time. It was hilarious to watch. So he's got a lot of positive feedback on it from the community. It does sound like he's going to do a round 2. Nick,
Mm-hmm.
sign me up for that, good sir. If you are watching, sign me up. I thought that was hilarious to watch. Go over and subscribe to Nick's _collectibles on YouTube as well, so that you don't miss that one.
I
on
did.
the
I
next
did
round.
give him a subscription anyway. So yeah.
Awesome. Cobra's Collection in the chat as well. Hello, Y16 collectors. Late but happy to be here. We are happy that you were here, good sir. Let's move on from Ken. It's going to stay on my radar though. If I get the Ryu, then maybe. This popped up also this last week. Now, it's had a lot of coverage, so I want to cover this guy just a little bit differently, because I don't know if I've got a lot of your takes on this particular figure, but this is of course the preview Iron Man for the Mark 7, the D100 version 6-scale figure from Hot Toys, and of course D100 being Disney 100. This is so far Hot Toys kind of first offering of that, and the reason I say first is because I am, boys, predicting that we're going to see some more D100 figures, or at least I kind of hope so, because my take on this was, it kind of feels a little bit watered down from my original Mark 7. I've got the Mark 7 diecast. That thing could convert into the pod. He had a ton of accessories that this guy doesn't seem like he's coming with. And this particular base, it looks to me like a reused base. The backing, the kind of the I want to say it looks like glass. Doesn't sound like that's
Yeah.
actually glass. My buddy AJ over at Hoth's Hometown Hero, he was looking at this ring last night on his live show, on his Saturday Night Live show, the Figure Freakout. So check that out as well. But he was looking at this plastic ring, and it looks like it's the same ring that Doctor Strange uses for his ring portal effect on one of that figure, and it's literally just kind of a transparent plastic ring with a decal or painting on the outside. So to me, this doesn't feel as premium as I feel like they're kind of advertising it to be. If this was glass and behind, it could look like a trophy in somebody's collection. Shane, I don't think you have a Mark 7, do you?
Nope.
Do you want a Mark 7? And if you were going to get one, would this be the one you chase? Or would your chase Mark 7 actually be the original? And I think I know your answer because I know your rules, but I'm curious what you're going to say.
Yeah, it would definitely be the original one.
Yeah.
Multiple different reasons. One, it actually had screen time. Two,
Sure.
I actually prefer the gold and red color. Three, I can think of a dozen Iron Men that I don't own, that I don't have on pre-order, that I have no intention of pre-ordering, that I would rather have than this.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
sure.
you know, as in, like, just off the top of my head, the comic book Iron Man, or the Mark 1, or the Mark 5, or the Mark 5 suit up, or even the Mark 50. I'd rather have them than this. It's definitely not for me. No.
Fair enough. In the chat, tell me in the chat, guys, who in there is thinking about getting this figure. I want to see your comments. I want to see who's putting their hand up for yes or no. I'll figure out polls maybe on the next Let's Get Nuts. I haven't figured that out quite yet, but put it in the comments if you guys are thinking about getting this figure. Pete, I was thinking about my Doc Brown this morning because I actually had a second Doc Brown that I was able to finally sell, which is cool. Got a little money back for something else. Everybody was losing their shit about a cardboard plutonium case, right? And part of the reason was this is a premium collectible. We're paying a lot of money for these figures, and you're giving us cardboard. What the F, right?
Yeah.
But then we get a D100, basically repaint of the Mark 7 with what seems like kind of this plastic ring in the back. And they're still kind of expecting, Hot Toys is expecting that people are going to be really happy about this and be really excited. Question for you, Pete, is like, when it comes to materials going forward with our Hot Toys, or just collectibles in general, it doesn't even have to be Hot Toys. Like, what should our expectation be? Are we okay with light, cheap plastic? Are we okay with cardboard? Or should we be asking for more? Because when I look at this to me feels like it's advertising more than what you're actually getting in the box. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I wasn't too. I mean, to use the Doc Brown example, that's a really good one. Yeah, it didn't really bother me that much. I get that people were annoyed because obviously that was the deluxe version. You had to pay, $20, $30 more for it. Actually, in reality, it doesn't look too bad, and I don't think that unless you knew it was cardboard, or you picked it up and you had a real close look that you'd know. I mean, obviously, it's not as robust as plastic, and obviously, if you had a bit of a mishap with it or anything, it's not going to stand up to as much damage. I think Hot Toys have been cheaping out over the last few years with some of the materials they use. I mean, the worst ones I can think of is the when they brought out the 2-pack Jawa and Gonk Droid, and it had these horrible jelly mold things that went over the tops of the bases, and they were thin as anything, and that one really annoyed me. I didn't buy that set, but that would have really annoyed me. Yeah, I mean, just overall on this one, it does nothing for me. I don't buy Marvel anymore, but I had the original Mark said, the plastic one, the pink pants. Well, I didn't get the pink pants on mine, but it was one of the ones that had the discoloration. I never had the die cast, but I understand that was a fantastic figure, and if I ever did want an Iron Man again, I'd probably get that one. I had the 46 concept one, which was another one that that never, was never on screen. But I loved the look of that. I loved the extra gold and stuff. But this one just reminds me of the was it the 47 from the one of the Spider-Man movies, and that figure went crazy, didn't it? There was a period where that was going for like $1,000, and
For sure.
Well,
because I've even been considering the Mark V for the same kind of reason. I like the color scheme of the Mark V, and they've done I think 4 reissues of the Mark V now, 4 or 5. There's been a lot of them, and that most recent one, I was like, okay, like maybe I'll buy it this time, and it's got the silver and red color scheme, which I really dig. But no,
and I think, as others have said, yes, Disney own Marvel, but as a Disney 100 thing, that's not the first thing that would pop into my mind that was a Disney franchise. And if they're not going to go down the route of making Mickey figures and stuff, even something like and I guess it's difficult because of issues that he's had in his personal life, but even a Pirates of the Caribbean or something, because they've had that ride since like the 1950s or something, so that says Disney more to me than Iron Man or even Star Wars or something like that, because they've not owned them for very long. And they're not really what the company was about and what built the company up to what it is. They've just got some money and thrown it about and bought a few franchises. So,
absolutely. And I'm struggling to find the picture, but I know people have been kind of circulating it. I'll see if I can find it here in a second. Of this particular image on the left, but being dressed up like Mickey. Like he's got they've painted him like Mickey. He's got like Mickey ears.
Yeah.
That might actually be something that I would have wanted to buy. It's like silly as it is, it would be such a unique piece in the collection, and not just feeling like a repaint of what we've had in the past. But that's a great segue, Pete, because I've got the same question for you, Chris. So, as a D100 figure, just collectible in general, what would you have rathered see from a D100 release? Of all of the properties that Disney's been a part of over the lifespan of its company, is it the Mark 7 to you, or is it something else? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think like was just said, Pirates of the Caribbean's a great shout. I would even imagine some decent Tron Legacy figures. That'd be cool. But I think I wouldn't get too caught up in like the whole materials thing. Like if you want a clear ring with some like metal flaking on it, like acrylic is probably the right material for it. If it's glass, a lot less of them are going to survive the trips around the world, I'm sure. But I think they should really try their best not to remind us that they own Marvel and Star Wars if they want us to buy more stuff. Because there's going to be a Darth Vader is going to be the next one they announce. Mark my words.
Yeah.
It's going to be Darth Vader with a big circle behind him, Empire logo or something.
Yeah.
And,
If they
and
made-
no accessories.
If they did like a concept like white Darth Vader or something, though, that could be still kind of cool. It would still be kind of a repaint, and still like some of the criticism that I have of even this one. But I kind of like what you're saying there, Chris, is that like it's interesting that they want us to be reminded of the fact that it's Marvel that they own and Star Wars, but they own a lot of properties. Like when I think of Disney over 100 years, it's not the Mark 7 that would first come to mind. I can't find that Disney character, that Mickey version of the suit. If I find it later, I'll post it. It's super funny, but sorry, I don't know if I got your answer then. So like, what would be your one that you would kind of want?
Give me what's the name of the villain in Tron Legacy who never takes his helmet off? He's based on his named after the writer. Oh man.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know.
Uh,
We need help in the chat.
oh, this is killing me. He's a great writer who they named him after. But anyways, give me the guy who never takes his helmet off from Tron Legacy. He's a good dude. He looks cool. That'd
There
be
you go.
interesting.
That's awesome, dude. I will look up that character. I don't remember it, to be fully honest.
Rinsler.
That to me feels like a deep
Yeah.
cut, but I like, you know what? If that's what resonates with you, that's
He's like the Terminator of Tron Legacy. He's always hunting the main cast, and I think he falls in an endless pit at the end or something good like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Fair enough. We did have 16fix in the chat. Bummed I'm missing you dudes today, but looking forward to catching this on replay. Thanks for stopping in either way, good sir. I know a lot of people are rooting for you and are happy for you that you hit that 1,000 for sure. Nick says his name's the bad guy. There you go.
Yeah, but he just has a cool suit,
The
much like
Renslayer.
Iron Man.
Gotta look
Yeah.
that up. The Rensselaer.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. You know what? End of the day, this is a cool looking figure. I do feel like they've watered the release down a little bit from kind of what we've seen in the past. For me, my question for Pete on the material, that's something that's been resonating with me more and more. I'm fine with that plutonium case from the Doc Brown. I think it absolutely looks exactly how it should. But on the other hand, cause babies keep popping up in my stream. Now, I'm not a cause baby collector by any stretch, but the reason that I even put this on the screen is this is obviously a cause baby version of the D100 Mark 7 that we just saw. But then they also teased these, the Iron Spider and this purple schemed Black Panther. Pretty cool. Do you guys feel like cause babies are an indication of what is to come for Hot Toys? Or do you really feel like they're kind of separate departments that sometimes just happen to blend together? Shane, what do you think?
Yes and no. We've seen it time and time again. They release their cause babies and everyone goes, oh, look what's coming out. And then a few weeks or months later, you get the 1/6 scale version. So, yeah, it would not surprise me if they do an Iron Spider, some sort of die-cast repaint thing, or a Black Panther. Like, just, yeah. I will say this, though. Do you know the argument that Disney 100, I've made this argument myself, that it's 100 years of Disney, but yet Disney only bought Marvel a few years back, and Iron Man doesn't exactly scream Disney. If the figure they dropped during the week, this D100, was Slave Leia, no one would be using that argument. They'd be like, yes, we've got a Slave Leia. Am I wrong?
Interesting point. So you're feeling like the criticism is more of the character or iteration of the character that they selected.
I think we're all
versus
kind of a bit Iron Man'd out.
That's fair.
And I think maybe if they had done a Slave Leia to celebrate Disney's 100, everyone would have been like,
I think that's
super.
the least likely character.
I think it is 100%, but my point is still stands.
Yeah.
100%, but everyone would be like, we finally got Leia, or Prisoner Leia, or whatever you want to call her. That's a fact.
true.
No one would be making that argument. We'd be just like, shut up, take it when you can get it. I think cause babies sometimes are an indicator.
They might do it, but imagine if they gave you the Slave Leia with a silver costume and they never did it again. That'd be beautiful.
Hunter Customs. Everyone would be just like, you'd have all these great custom artists just making the actual proper clothing.
100%. Now, I have the same question for you, Chris. Do you feel like cause babies are kind of an indicator? And part of the reason I've been asking that as well lately is even Lego. You know, I walk past a Lego section, you know, occasionally when I go through Toys R Us, and Lego actually kind of spoiled the characters of the Thor film that were coming. I had a feeling I knew what Gore the God Butcher looked like because of the Lego minifigure before we'd seen really any tease of what that character would look like. But when it comes to cause babies, I'm asking this question for a very selfish reason. I've seen cause babies of the Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker. And I'm kind of wondering, like, are we now going to see a 3.0 Joker from Hot Toys now that the in-art dust has started to settle? What do you think? Are cause babies an indicator of what's to come?
I think if you see these, it means that Hot Toys is prototyping these figures, and whether they come out or not will be based on the sales of that Iron Man. And I think I wouldn't even be surprised if you just got one of these two next and then they stopped, because that's well within their past behavior examples, doing stuff like that.
For sure.
But,
what's the scale? What's your scale that you normally collect? Like, what's your favorite scale to collect?
I do very small amount of 1/4 and 1/6, but most of my collection is like the vintage Kenner Star Wars stuff from the 70s and 80s. So it's all 3 3/4.
Nice.
But I mean, scale doesn't really come into place with that because it's more like collecting old comic books. You know, it's a lot of 45-year-old cardboard at this point. Couple figures that aren't much to look at, but the value is intrinsic to the fact that it's still sealed. But
100%.
Yeah, but you know, but they're definitely, like I said, they're definitely got these. They got examples of these painted up with these colors in the office somewhere, and whether they ever happen or not is, as you guys know, you see stuff that doesn't come out quite a bit with them.
For sure. And I mean, Nick's Collectible saying the same thing here. They make the Toy Story cause babies all the time, but don't make figures for those. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And again, I think, like I said earlier, I'm coming from a bit of a selfish position because I've got my rooted 2-pack Joker coming from InArt eventually. I'm hoping it doesn't come this week while I'm in Las Vegas. Like, that would suck. But, Pete, do you think Cause Babies are an example of what's to come? And, second question to add on to it, do you think Hot Toys is going to make a Hot Toys 3.0 Joker?
Can I just say that I hate Cos Babies? I mean, I know that's not what the question is.
It's shit. Yeah.
and I guess people must buy them because they keep making them. But I just wish they didn't do them and spent their time giving us more figures, 1/6 figures that we badly need. But anyway, that's not what you asked me. Is it a good indicator? Probably not. I think they're just really like random. And I mean, why would you want that? Why would you want this Black Panther in a platinum colour thing? And also, and I know you're going to probably drop me off this now. I'm not a massive. I couldn't give a shit about. I don't think they will do a 3.0 Joker, but I've been very vocal on streams that I enjoy the Nolan films. Don't get me wrong, but I've never owned a Ledger Joker, and
Oh my God.
I don't intend to. It was the InArt release is very important to me as an indicator of the quality and what's to come with Lord of the Rings.
Dude, okay, so that is not what I thought you were going to say. Leave it to the
I
Brit.
knew he was going to say it.
Leave it
so
to
I
the
streamed
Brit
it multiple times.
to have like the hot fire take. I had this lined up for you, Pete, because I thought you were going to say that you would like to see a Hot Toys 3.0 Joker and that you love the character. I had this lined up for you.
No, you complete me.
I'm going to take that off my slide deck now. Now I can't even use it. Now it's been ruined. You hate to see it.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm glad you guys gave your real takes. I think that's all very valid points. To me, I honestly don't think Cause Babies are necessarily an indicator of what's to come. It gives me some hopefuls, but I think, Chris, you nailed it. If this D100 Iron Man sells like crap, we're probably not going to see these other ones. If it sells well, maybe. I think the limited batch number, the 300 in the States that are going to be available of the 1,500 worldwide, I think that will create the purchases anyways, whether or not people even want it. Unfortunately, I think people will just buy it because it's rare, not necessarily because it's the one figure that they wish they would make.
Stay in boxes and just be seen as an investment, maybe. Yeah,
exactly. So
but
talking about,
sorry, just on it, like, if there is only 1,500, just number them. It's not that hard, because then the people that really want that exclusive nature or whatever, at least they know they have 342 of 1,500.
Yeah,
I think that would actually boost sales. It's the people that collect and they want that exclusivity and they want to maybe keep in the boxes. At least they're catered for too, and every now and then they'll do something like that. So I don't know why they don't number them if it's 1,500.
Well, you're 100% right, because it would have at least added a whole other layer to the collectible, right? It's a whole other layer. If we get something from Hot Toys like the churro, the Spider-Man with the churro, that thing came out, everybody bought it, and then people started selling it for ridiculous money on the aftermarket as soon as they had it in hand, because this figure came with a churro. And then was it even a month later that Hot Toys came out with their second version of the same character, just sans churro? And it was kind of a piss off, because it's like, well, was the churro actually that worth it?
To be fair,
I know there was a little bit more.
And a coffee cup.
You're not wrong.
Or soda can.
I know.
A little magazine, I think.
But how much is that worth to you as a person? My goodness.
Not a fucking grand. I am on your side, Ben.
100%.
The world is a mad place.
Right? And if they do this with that D100, say you get the figure still, you just don't get the fancy plastic ring base in the back, but people go through the headache of getting it. They wait in the queues on Sideshow or wherever you buy it from, and all of the nightmare that's likely going to ensue from trying to lock in one of the 300 that's available to us. And then they come out with the same figure in a month, just in a smaller box with a few less accessories. I feel like that will burn people again. I really hope that Hot Toys has learned from that in the past. But money speaks all languages, and I'm not totally sure that they've learned any lessons like that. I feel like they'll still just capitalize on the fact that people may or may not have even realized the D100 was as rare as it was, and they'll still make sales, right? They've made it up to this point. Are they going to literally limit it to 1,500? It's questionable. If they'd put that extra layer, like you said, Shane, with the numbering on it, maybe. But you also hit on something earlier, Shane, so I'll start with you. In terms of Iron Man fatigue, the Silver Centurion is out, and I was blown away. I looked up the price today, and I didn't realize this guy was $485.
Wow.
Like, when I convert that to Canadian and pay the customs and all, this is like an $800 figure for me. Like, oh my goodness. I cannot justify this character. I can't. I like Iron Man a lot. There are some suits that absolutely resonate with me. My figure fatigue of Iron Man's is starting to become real. This isn't one to me that stood out to me so dramatically that I would have to pay that kind of coin for it. But Shane, I know you are, in terms of Iron Man, still a pretty big fan of Iron Man. And I think you've got at least 2 suits behind you and a quarter scale, if I'm not mistaken, correct? So you are probably more equipped to answer this than even I am. Like, I know you mentioned fatigue, but when it comes to your buying habits, are you still planning on purchasing either this Iron Man suit or more that slowly come out? No?
God, no.
You're capping yourself off.
No, I wasn't joking earlier on when this and the D100. I can literally list out a dozen different Iron Man figures from Hot Toys that I don't own, that I have no intention of owning, but I'd rather like to own before this or the D100. Like, I've got that Mark 6 behind me. That's my favorite Iron Man figure. It's my favorite suit. I've got the Battle Damage Mark 85 because I just love it, and it's an iconic suit, you know. I've got the quarter scale because I have a plan. I want one Marvel quarter scale, one DC, one Star Wars. And I got the 47 because I love Homecoming and I really like Tom Collins' Spider-Man. It pairs very well with the deluxe Spidey with the blazer and all that. The 3.0, is it the 3.0? Yeah, 3.0 Mark III? Or is it 2.0? No, it's the 2.0 diecast Mark III.
Yeah, 2.0 diecast.
Yeah. I couldn't say no to that. But,
that's fair.
Yeah, like... No, I think I'm done, like, because, you know, like you were mentioned, like, is this a triple threat? No, it's not. Do I love the character? Yes. Do I love the source material, Iron Man 3? No. And do I love this version? No. But that being said, I do appreciate the circuitry and the blue, the aesthetics of how well the blue lights and all the circuitry underneath the armor looks. I get that, and there's aspects of the suit I do like, but it's not the best Tony Stark sculpt they've done, and I just don't like this suit. I mean, it has 2 blades. I think with all the tech that Iron Man has, and they give him which is essentially a RoboCop ripoff. Let's be honest, because you know if you've watched RoboCop, you know.
Data spike,
Yeah, there's parts of it that look really cool, but it's $480 for this, and then shipping and tax. It's just not worth it.
The lighting also to me looks really photoshopped,
Yeah.
because I can't think of a single hot toy that's this bright, unless it's maybe USB powered, but I don't think that this particular version is. And
this is USB powered.
Thank you.
However,
Okay,
everything but the head
lights up.
That's just stupid.
The head doesn't light up on this?
No, it's USB powered.
Oh.
But the eyes don't light. Everything
I guess
because
it's the face plate similar to the Mark 7 was.
Yeah, it's silly. Like, if you're going to do USB, go work it out, Hot Toys. So no,
have a secondary sculpt at the very least, right? That's got a battery in it.
Yeah, like along those lines. I heard people say that, like, you know, maybe the new collectors are in here and they really, really want an Iron Man. This is not the one. If you're getting one or you're new, hold out for that Mark III. That's one of the most iconic ones. The Battle Damage 85 is more iconic than this. I think this is one for the die-hard Iron Man collectors or completionists. I personally don't get it.
For sure. Chris, I know you don't collect a ton of 6 scale, so I'm sure, just without asking, that you don't have like suddenly an Iron Man display necessarily behind you. But what is your favorite Iron Man suit? Is this one of them, or what would you kind of rank as a top one if you were going to buy it?
I'd say if I'm just I would only ever have one of these were I to have one, and it'd probably be the Mark III, just because I sort of like if I don't know all the rest of them that well, and if I imagined the sort of MCU Iron Man, that's what I go to automatically. And I feel like if you're trying to curate a collection, it should probably be the first one, because nobody's going to recognize this one right away unless they're like really in the weeds. And like
Totally.
it looks a little bit like, I don't know, he looks like he'd have a hard time getting around. It's a little boxy, it's a little bit over stylized with exposed lighting, internal mechanics. It's not but I do kind of like that movie though. It's a guilty pleasure. Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what they did with, and I know a lot of people didn't like what they did with the Mandarin and Ben Kingsley, but I thought that was hilarious. So I had a good time watching it. But yeah, this looks a little too stylized for me if I'm trying to think of a practical Iron Man who's there to do work.
100%. We have 30 people in the chat. If you can hit the like button if you haven't already, I definitely appreciate everybody being here so far. Pete, same question to you, good sir, because I know you are very strategic about your collection, and I've learned over the last couple of weeks of interviewing you that when I say, "Are you going to buy this?" it's usually a no. But so the same question goes back to you then. If you were to choose your favorite Iron Man suit, is it this one, or what one would you collect?
No, definitely not. It's a very odd selection because they made a Silver Centurion way back in the day, plastic one, and nobody wanted it. It was bargain basement. You could pick it up cheap. It was always the one. Oh, if you want to get into Hot Toys and you want an Iron Man, that's the one to get because it's really cheap and no one wants it. So why on earth they've invested the time and effort in this? Which you never saw it do this on screen or anything like that anyway. Yeah, I'm really fatigued with Iron Man, to be honest.
That's fair.
The favourite suit, either the 6 or 7. I do like the 46, and I did own that. That's very sleek looking. But yeah, I think over time you always fall back to those earlier ones, and obviously the 6 is unique because of the triangular arc reactor, and the 7 is kind of like the Avengers one.
Monster.
So what, 6 or 7? Yeah, 6 or 7 would be my.
I approve your choices. I have a question for you though.
Yep.
If you gave this Iron Man on screen a hat and a whip, would you buy it?
No.
Yeah, definitely. No,
Probably not.
No.
Not for $700.
And called it Iron Man Jones.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There's a good ring to it.
Yeah.
We've got
No.
we've got Pop Culture Living Room Costa in the chat. Again, I think most of us follow each other, but if you do not follow Pop Culture Living Room, go check out his YouTube channel. He's got some amazing content over there, including some of his display builds are fantastic. Also, sir, I would love to get you on the show at some point for a Let's Get Nuts, so keep me posted if you ever want to join in. But he says here, the suits in Iron Man 3 were throwaway suits, nothing iconic about them, which is, damn, that's a heavy take. And then we've got Shane saying, Costa is right, listen to Costa, he knows things.
Yeah.
You'll have
Although
to see
actually, Shane, you hit on something great there. I think as much as we've just said that, a Disney D100 shouldn't be something that they've bought in the last 20 years, if they did bring an indie out, a classic indie, that would sell massively.
Yeah, it would.
But we know the issues of Harrison Ford's likeness and stuff like that, so it wouldn't happen. But that would be would be a very welcome release, I think, if they were to do something like that. But yeah, obviously they don't have any, as far as we know, they don't have any licensing rights to the new movie and stuff like that. So
100%.
And going back to this, Ben, the point that you made, I feel like you, obviously, Pete gets it with import charges and stuff like that, like in customs and stuff, but you have the same because you're in Canada. So when you're coming to price on this, if you take something like the Mark 47, that's the gunmetal one from Homecoming, whether you like it or not, for $374, that was the sideshow price. Now I know you have to factor in your shipping and your custom, but $374, you had a fully unmasked Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. head sculpt, which looked fantastic. You had the glasses, you had a bunch of accessories, like a myriad of accessories and stuff like that, and it was just great value, like for a decent Iron Man, But
100%. I don't know. I want to hear from the chat. If you guys can tell me, because I read all the comments after the show, especially if I've missed anybody, I apologize. Tell me what your favorite suit of armor is, for me, I got to agree with you guys when you say the Mark III or the Mark VII. I bought the Mark VII because at the time when I got that suit, it was the closest thing I could get to what looked to me like the Mark VII, or sorry, the Mark III. It was more like mech style. It wasn't like the nano style like we get in kind of the later films with the Mark 85 and such. So I loved the Mark VII suit. When they announced the new die-cast version of the Mark III, I was like, ooh, that might get me. That might still get me, as well as a Mark 1. I always said I'd only have one version of Iron Man in my collection because it's so slippery of a hole to kind of get yourself out of. But if I did a Mark 1, a Mark 3, and a Mark 7, and maybe a Mark 85 battle damage, because let's be honest, it's a pretty cool final scene. Those 4 would be kind of a tap out. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. What is your favorite Mark suit? And why. Guys, let's switch gears again.
Allow me to break the ice. My name is Freeze. Learn it well, for it's the chilling sound of your doom.
I saw this pop up on Mars Toys.
Oscar worthy.
And it's a strange one. It was a strange one because, you know, the Collecting Weekly guys and I, we all always have a chat. And on the Mars Toys post, I'm pretty sure it said something along the lines of like Terminator. But when I saw this head sculpt, I was thinking, no, that's a misdirect. It has to be a misdirect. This has to be a Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin. And while I thought that movie was by far the worst of all of them, it just wasn't a great film. I would 100% buy a Mars Toys figure version of Mr. Freeze. Arnie is a legend.
Yeah.
And I was going to capture all of the puns, the Freeze puns that this guy does in this film, and I'm not kidding. It was like a 4-minute video of puns. It was so long that I was like, I'm just gonna keep like one, like max 2, like max 2. I think this is the one that most of us remember.
All right, everyone, chill.
Love that one. Pete.
Yeah.
I know you probably don't like the movie, because most of us really don't, even if you're a Batman fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you think that this is a Terminator tease or a Mr. Freeze tease? And if it is either of them, are you excited about it? Or what are your thoughts?
There's no way it's Terminator. Why is he bald?
Right.
They would
Right.
have sculpted hair on there.
Yes. Thank you.
And there's no other figure. There's no other character that I can think of for Arnie where he hasn't got hair. So it's 100% Freeze. And yeah, I would own it purely because it's Arnie. I love him. He's an absolute legend. And I've got several Arnie pieces in the collection. And yeah, I mean that suit is epic. As bad as that film is, yeah, he's very memorable. And if it had all the lights and stuff on it, it'd be amazing. So yeah, I'd quite happily own that just as part of my Arnie collection, to be honest.
100%. And you made a great point with the sculpted hair. That was exactly what I was thinking as well. Because it was like, why would they go out of their way to even like sculpt like the baldness on this if they were going to just add hair over top? Doesn't necessarily make sense. We have another super chat from 16Figure Focus himself. You don't have to pay to be here, Shane, but I appreciate you. Good
That's
sir.
not what you said backstream.
That's right. You're not wrong. He says, I'm a Mark 7 man. Ben, we will always have 800.
6. That's a 6. God damn you.
That's Mark. Oh, thank you. Oh my God. I don't know
And you
my,
call yourself
my Roman
Roman
numerals. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. Thank you for that. I appreciate you, good sir.
What was that?
That's Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys.
I've never seen Trailer Park Boys.
Jeez.
Nah, me neither.
You hate to see it.
I need to culture myself.
My God, I've got so many Trailer Park Boys ones here. Like, let's just do this.
That's the way she goes, buddy. The fucking way she goes.
That's the way she goes, boys.
That's
So
where that
good.
comes from.
I don't know if you guys know the story. I'll tell it real quick. Shane and I streamed together like too many times. Too many times before he hit sub count 800. We were on channels together. We were always saying like sub to each other's channels and blah, 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 all the things, right? He gets to 799 subscribers. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. I'm going to pull up his page and see when he hits 800. Yeah, turns out I wasn't a subscriber of Shane until he hit 799 subscribers. So I was 800. So when I got to 790 on the Ben Thomas show, I sent him a message to be like, hey, if you're going to unsub from me and resub at 800, now's your chance. Just put it out there. If I won't take it personally. And literally that's what he did. He was like, okay, great. No, I see a sub count drop off by 1. And within about the same day, I hit the 800 and he got the 800 locked in. So we are each other's 800th subscriber. You'll love to see it. But it only takes 799 people to subscribe to each other before we truly get that support. So you guys all know. So back to Mr. Freeze. So, Chris, Mars Toys, if they make this figure, what do you think that they're going to do in terms of the lighting? Because we've seen Hot Toys starting to add like USB functionality. This suit to me is way too bright for batteries. It would last like 30 seconds and then it would poof, it would be done. What do you think they're going to do over at Mars Toys if they make this figure?
Well, lighting, whether a light source looks bright or not in an image is all just a matter of camera exposure, Ben, so like you could make a really dim LED look very bright in a photograph. True. But this is like, I think like Pete said, like this is just one of the most insane costumes of all time. Like they just don't play in this universe anymore. They're like, we need something a little more grounded. He's gonna have a leather jacket. This is like if Batman the Animated Series was on like steroids and real life. Like this is crazy, right? So it'd be tempting. I would love to see this in it, but it's just like, can they pull off the sort of polished metal look with all the LEDs like that? There's so like this would have to be be even unlicensed. Just look how ornate everything is, right?
Intricacy to it and all.
For sure. Yeah. The only thing that I could see is if they make maybe this version of him then, where he's actually just like in a bathrobe. No. But then I'm like, I don't know if that would be as exciting to me. Like, I don't know if I've got the Riddler coming. They've teased the Tommy Lee Jones Two-Face. I see that 12-inch Moose Stream here says the Earth 616 collector, Tommy Lee Jones is terrible. I think that there was another version of it at some point that was kind of rough. I think Justin's Collection had reviewed it at one point. I don't know if I'd want the bathrobe version of him though. I like that is a little less exciting. But like we were saying, in terms of the forehead detail and head detail, here you see it on the forehead for sure. But then he's got all the other equipment on, and you make a great point, Chris. I don't know how Mars Toys would necessarily afford to do this at a low enough dollar amount that it would make sense for a third party offering.
Yeah, I mean, even look at the gun. Needs to light up too. He's got like a Men in Black gun. This is crazy. I want to see it physically exist, but you might be right about the bathrobe, because like, is that even his real neck sort of showing there, or is it covered? Like, why is the neck sculpted on the preview, right? Like, I don't know if that's actually his neck or not. But
in the picture here, it looks kind of like his neck painted. But yeah, that's hard to say. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be as excited about this. Shane, what do you think? Like, do you think Mars Toys could pull this outfit off with the light up?
Stop kidding yourselves, lads. It's the Bat robe. That's what you're getting. This is not happening. This is 100% not happening. Stop kidding yourselves.
I don't know if I want it as badly if it's the
Mars Toys. They're knocking out of the park. They're the people's champion. You don't want to hear this, but sometimes I got to give you the medicine. They've done the 66 Joker. They've done the Nicholson Joker with the purple coat. They've done the kind of the art version. Everyone loves them. I get that, and they're doing great work. They're not doing this. They're not doing this with a USB light up and stuff like that. You're getting the bathrobe. You'll have a cigar. That'd be it.
Fair enough. Would you rather have a Poison Ivy or a Bane from that film then as a result?
I don't want anything from this film. I'm sorry. Okay. I don't have the space or the budget to be trifling with this Joel Schumacher crap. I'm sorry. I've no chill when it comes to this. Those films are a skid mark on Batman's history. I'm sorry.
I see what you did
there. Yeah, an icy skid mark. You hate to see it. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'm cool off. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they do. I think at the end of the day, I'm just kind of excited about Mars toys. And a few live streams ago, if you missed it, we talked about, like, we called it the Mars Attacks stream, because Mars has been doing some pretty crazy stuff. And I feel like kind of every day or every other day, I love opening their Facebook page just to see if they've teased anything else, because it's going to be some cool shit down the line. Pete, what do you think? What were you gonna say there?
Well, I'm really disappointed that you stole the OFAC episode name, Mars Attacks. I'm sure we came up with it first, but
I didn't know that.
no, I'm joking. We did have our one was called Mars Attacks as well, but I mean it's so like
I did not know
blatantly
that.
just like
Fake fan over here. You hate to see it.
yeah, yeah. He's
Nah,
like,
man.
OFAC. I don't watch that.
Solicitor's letter, lawyer's letter in the post.
Yeah, we need to go.
embarrassing.
We need to go back through the through the Facebook and see who posted it up first. But
I think I
yeah.
totally posted it first. Well, I hope so.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Mate.
I'm going to
It's
hear
all
from
good.
Zach the Oxfather later. You just know it, right? And demonetize Ben.
Yeah. I forget what the question was. What was the question?
I don't even know. Do you think that this is actually a reality, or are we going to get the bathrobe, or is there anything else you'd rather see?
I don't think they could pull off that suit. To be honest, it's incredibly intricate. But then that clearly I can't see what else that would be. So and do they really think that the bathrobe version would? I suppose it could be really cheap. If it was like $120, people would
That's true.
probably, because there's not going to be much to it, is there? If it's a bathrobe and a pair of pajamas, whatever he's got.
Well, they're not paying for the likeness rights, right? And like they've traditionally
so
been
it
cheaper.
could be a really cheap one. In which case, people might go, well, actually, yeah, I can just add that in because it's cheap enough that. But yeah, no, I as much as I'd like to see this and see how they pulled it off, it's probably not going to happen.
Fair enough. Tell me in the chat. We have 32 people here. Would you rather see Mr. Freeze or Bane from Batman and Robin? I want to hear it because I liked the Bane. When I was a kid, I liked the Bane. I thought he was cool. It has nothing to do with Bane and this comic representation, but
Well,
Ben, if I'm wrong and they do this and it's good, like I'm not going to put this out there onto the internet if they do this and it's terrible. If I'm wrong, you can clip that, bring me back on, and I'll give away a hot toy. Okay?
hey,
But,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's big.
There we go. There we go. But they'd have to do it like actually, somewhat decent. But I don't think they're doing this. So.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. Chris, you were going to say one last thing there?
well, I was just gonna say,
what is that?
well,
I need to watch it again. Sorry.
that Bane would be just as much work as this probably. I mean, a little bit less, but
True.
it still would be like a totally unique body with a whole bunch of hardware. So
Painted slightly green and kind of,
Yeah.
That's fair. No,
I don't see it happening either. But
people are saying freeze they'd rather see. Joker J says neither. Pop Culture Living Room says no. Fair enough. It's not getting a lot of love. We've got two more figures to dive into, guys. We've got the last 20 minutes of the show here. We are looking next at Clone Trooper Jesse, or the ARC Trooper Jesse. I had to pull this image up first because this is basically a poster made from Hot Toys, which is amazing. I feel like the blog or photo game lately has been better, honestly. Like there was a period of time where there was some lackluster, images out there, and then we're starting to see stuff like this. Now, I won't, try and lie to you guys. I don't love the Clone Wars yet. I'm now about halfway through the third season. I finally was able to get through the first two seasons. I'm about halfway through the third. It is picking up for me. I can totally see the appeal. It's starting to feel a little bit more matured as the content kind of moves along. I've liked some of the story beats, but I don't absolutely love the show like some collectors out there do. And I personally, while I know that, Mandalorian and a Stormtrooper are different characters, when I start looking at the clones themselves, I do have a hard time identifying who is who and why I should care and some of those things. So this isn't a great one for me to address because as cool as I think that this figure looks like, this is the first ARC Trooper that we've got from Hot Toys. So that alone is collectible in nature. If you love the Clone Wars, it's cool to be able to get an ARC Trooper for sure. And the sculpt, I think, looks fantastic. I love how much range Tamora Morrison has had with his likeness rights. I mean, that guy must be absolutely just rolling in the coin at this point, right? Like, he must be just rolling in the coin. Chris, tell me your thoughts. Are you a Clone Trooper, or sorry, I should say a Clone Wars fan of the show? And then are these figures that are something that that actually kind of jive with you?
Well, I like the show. It's sort of like, yeah, you sort of had to be there, but like this thing happened for you, those guys who pay a lot of attention to Star Wars. It's like when Disney bought the company, they erased the whole canon of like all the pre-existing comics and books and video games and all that, right? And the only thing other than the movies that was still canon as far as the story was concerned was the first 6 seasons of the Clone Wars. So that was like the life raft for like all the good side content. Anything they referenced in the Clone Wars was still canon. So like they had a lot of cool storylines that were sort of interwoven with the other ancillary media. So like I really enjoyed it while it was coming out. And you just have wild stuff happening in that show for a kids show. Like, I think in the 3rd or 4th episode, a bunch of clones like blow themselves up to stop the droids from like getting data from some base or something. It's like a little rough stuff for kids, but I know a lot of people had problems with Ahsoka early on in the movie. It was a little bit tough to get through, but I do think it's gotten a little out of hand with like the number of Tamora Morrisons we're supposed to keep track of as individuals.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the credit goes to D. Bradley Baker, who voices like all of the clones on the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch, and it's just funny that 90% of that show is one voice actor. But you know what? If you ask me what did Jesse do in Clone Wars season 7, I'm gonna have a hard time helping you out with that. But it looks great. I love the ARC Troopers. They look cool. The pauldrons look nice. The helmet looks cool. The tattoo is excessive, but yeah. It's a nice looking piece.
Can you imagine, like, with some of the content we've been seeing from Star Wars lately, how like there's these different factions and stuff. Can you imagine walking around with like this tattoo on your face after the fact and trying to like blend into society? Like,
yeah, they're gonna know.
Good luck.
They're
man.
gonna. They'll definitely be suspicious.
That was a bad choice. This is like he's gonna be on that like Regert's tattoo stream, on BuzzFeed later.
What did you do before the rebellion?
Yeah, no Regerts. Yeah,
it looks like an old school Spider-Man back logo to me.
Yeah, fair enough. That's true. Yeah, 100%. What is Quinagary says, Ben, let me ask you this. Are you watching in broadcast order or the correct episode order from Clone Wars? Because the story is screwed around in a bit in the beginning. I started on Disney Plus and I'm watching it episode for episode. So I don't know if that's...
We're literally neck and neck, Ben.
Yeah? Okay.
Those first 2 seasons, oh my God, they're rough. Yeah. But I'm noticing in the 3rd, I put down my phone less. And I'm going to commit to the 4th season to put the phone out of the room.
I also said to Shauna the other day, boys, that I've gotten to this age, and I don't know if you guys can, relate to this or not, but like when I lay down in the dark lately, I immediately fall asleep now. I used to be able to watch a show all night. I could stay up all night. Yeah. Now I can get her in bed and be like, okay, I might stay up for a little bit and I'll put a show on. I watched the most recent episode of Mandalorian the other night, and I don't know if it was just the episode wasn't jiving with me. Fair. But I could not stay awake. I was like, what has happened to me? I'm so old now. You hate to see it.
I know what you mean, man.
It doesn't get any better.
Yeah, if it's a 2-hour movie,
that's right.
It's like if you don't put it on at 7 p.m., it's not happening.
Legit. It's done. It's done. Quinn also says, I think people will buy at least 3 of these just to make a 5s and Echo as well. I would think that if they've gone this deep down the clone line at this point, we'll probably see an actual 5s and Echo. I could be wrong, but I'd be shocked if they didn't like make a whole character of that without needing to like army build this guy, specifically anyway. I could be wrong, but they've gone this deep in the line. I'd be shocked if they didn't give us a little bit more.
It's just paint at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But
Joker J has unlocked a memory.
What did he say?
He said, 3rd and 3rd, they're more different than you think because of my accent. I remember I have relations in Buffalo, New York, and we went over there one Christmas. and we were all playing American football in the basement, and like I didn't know anything about American football, so they were teaching me about first down, second down, third down. But then, like, when I'd be like, okay, this is the third down. My little cousin just absolutely rolled over laughing. He thought this was hilarious because I kept saying third down, because I'm thinking it's third down, but it's just my pronunciation, because Irish people, we struggle with THs, like, but yeah, I just unlocked that memory now. That's quite funny.
Do you guys say tomato or tomato then over there?
What?
Tomato or tomato?
No, tomato is grand. Like, tomato depends what mood you're in, but I'm just saying it's like.
What about you, Pete? Are you a tomato or a tomato?
Oh, tomato.
Yeah, that's okay. See, I've got British family too, so it's usually tomato. But either way. Shane, I've heard from you. Chris, I've heard from you. Pete, I have not heard from you on this figure. I assume this is probably not one you're going to buy. But tell me your thoughts on it, and why should people consider it?
I've got lots to say.
Okay, I love
it. So I'm in the latter throes of season 1. So I feel your pain, and I look forward to brighter days. Watching it with my 12-year-old boy. I think we tried to watch it before and he wasn't that interested, but now with Bad Batch and stuff, and Ian's always on at me about because he loves all the Clone Wars stuff, so we are watching it. And yeah, fucking Jar Jar Binks, I mean, it's beyond a joke, the shit that guy gets into. I will say that, yeah, it's very kid-centric, but I love the fact that, like, they really sort of, they don't really go into it, but it's apparent that how many poor clones die, and that they're literally just cannon fodder beyond these well-known, you know, the ones that have names that we know of. There's just so many of them die, and it's almost like, well, it doesn't matter, we just grow some more. So it's quite dark in that respect, I feel. I'm not a massive fan of this armor, you know, the clone armor in general, so they don't appeal to me as a figure. And I've really kind of have got, you know, tired of, like, just another trooper release, because they don't mean anything to me really, and I couldn't tell you, I wouldn't be able to tell any of them apart. And probably maybe after I've watched, I mean, I know Rex, I mean, you know, because he's obviously, like, from day one he's kind of like one of the main characters, but yeah, I'm very fatigued on the clones, and I just kind of think, like, how many of these do people actually need to own? You know, how many more can we have? And yeah, so I think they, for what they are, they look great, and anything with the Tamara Morrison head sculpts are going to look fantastic. But yeah, I never got the hype about the, you know, the sideshow ones and this Echo and Fives, and, you know, the prices they went for. I mean, is Echo the same guy that's in Bad Batch?
Different Echo, I believe, isn't it? I
No,
could be wrong.
it's you know, he starts out in Clone Wars and then he suffers a horrible accident where he becomes a cyborg. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Well,
cool. Well, I'll look
sense
forward
then.
to that bit.
Fair
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, and I suppose I feel bad if you do love these, because the Hot Toys are rinsing your wallets for, you know, if you have to own every version of these troopers.
Imagine if it was 2 different Echoes that were both Tamira Morrison. That'd be cruel.
No doubt, eh? No doubt. Kul Wahad says Jesse was a key player in the Umbara arc, one of the top 5 arcs in the whole of Clone Wars. So that gives me more excitement. Like, as I progress through the series, this may be one of those characters that for me right now, I'm like, I don't know. I could take it or leave it. What it is. It's when a storyline or a story beat really connects with me that then I'm like, ooh, okay, maybe I'll buy that now. We talked about Wonder Woman earlier. You mentioned it, Chris. Like, she's appeared in a lot of stuff already so far. It wasn't until the 30 seconds in Shazam 2 that I was like, I think I want to buy that now. You know, like, because that particular scene just resonated with me more than, like, tons of the rest of the content she's in. And I'm thinking Jessie could be the same way. The only other thing that I wish Hot Toys would do for these clone troopers or army building style characters is honestly make them a little cheaper. I'm sure the discretion, like the dollar discretion that they have, they're making tons of money from collectors on these. This cannot be that expensive to produce. And if these were just a little lower, you know, $50-$60 lower per figure, it might be more of one of those figures that I pick up on a dry week, or a week where there hasn't been a lot of releases lately. So like, I'm kind of feeling like I want to buy myself something. I would consider at that point buying something like this more than I would otherwise. But for me, you guys have heard me say it a million times, I've got so many things on my want list. My level of nostalgia packed into my body is like outrageous. So if it doesn't absolutely smash my nostalgia button, I will skip it until I get to some of those dry spells of, you know, future Ben problem, a future Ben collecting problem. At this point, there's too many things that I want. So that brings us to our last figure that I want to talk to you guys a little bit about. And it's, of course, the What If Infinity Stone Ultron. This is interesting to me for a couple of reasons. What If was a show that I enjoyed way more than I expected. I like some of the What If comics. Some of the What If comic story beats are really, really cool. I like thinking outside the box. I like seeing characters placed in positions that they aren't standard in like the main canon of the stories, and see what could happen. In the MCU, the Age of Ultron was a great film for a lot of reasons, but I felt like they beat Ultron a little too easily. Like, he could have been a crazy presence, and in one film they just kind of snuffed it out. And again, we talked a little bit about TV earlier versus movies and giving the ability to kind of expand on the story a little bit. I really liked what If did with this character. And of all of the characters in What If, I would say that resonated with me most, it's this Infinity Stone Ultron that got me in the feels, because I was like, damn, is he scary. I mean, he cut Thanos in half like butter. Like, it was like nothing. Like, his presence was scary. It was maniacal. It was, how are you going to stop this character from just literally taking over entirely? So, Pete, the question I have for you is, when it comes to What If, A, did you like the show? But B, would it be this character from the show you'd collect, if any of them? Or what was the character in that series that resonated with you most in terms of collectability?
Yeah, I did enjoy the series. I thought it was pretty good, and probably better than I was expecting. I think they hyped up the zombie one quite a lot, and I think it kind of didn't really live up to expectations. But that was a cool look for some of the characters. It kind of reminds me a bit of, and I don't know when the comics were for What If, how far they go back, but I've always been a massive fan of the Elseworlds stuff from DC, and you know, some of that's really interesting, like the you know, Gotham by Gaslight and things like that. But yeah, I don't think there's any character that I can think of that I would want to own from the series. I found it an interesting sort of side shoot from the movies, and I did enjoy it. But yeah, again, not. I mean, I don't collect Marvel now anyway, but I think even if I did, you know, they're little they're curiosities, but probably not something that I'd want to, you know, have on the shelf. But this guy looks cool. Looks pretty cool.
For sure. I mean, we talked about scale a few weeks ago when we were talking about the quarter scale Christopher Nolan Batman that was released. And Shane, I know you've got multiple scales in your own collection, including some quarter scale. I know you're really excited about that quarter scale Batman coming. This is obviously 6th scale, but he is 15 inches tall, filled up with die-cast, and a pretty, you know, impressive looking figure, at least from some of these blogger photos. Does this hit your 3 check marks when it comes to collectability for your own collection? Or what are your thoughts or feelings on this particular release?
Well, okay, I'll answer that question first. Is it a triple threat? Did I love the character? I think I really, really liked the character.
Cool.
Did I love the source material? I think I really, really liked the source material. And do I like this version? I actually loved this version. Because I think this is the version of Ultron that we should have got in Avengers. But if we did, there wouldn't have been an Avengers 3 and 4. because this guy is unbeatable.
Literally.
So the What If series, I thought it was a really, really interesting, fresh concept. They had like a free reign to just experiment and take things in a different direction. I love that. And like there was some episodes were hit and miss, but this episode is the one I remember the most, and this one I loved the most. I thought this guy was petrifying. You know, it was bad enough that he now had Ultron and Vision fused together to what they were trying to do in Age of Ultron. But when he got the stones, if he could think it, he can do it. There's no way they could beat this guy. So I know that the good guys have to win, and they kind of shoehorned the way in of them waking. It was this guy's unbeatable. This character was petrifying. I'd have loved to have seen a live action version, but no, I can't pick this guy up. Because I'm not going to go down that line. I'm just going to not let myself go down this line for the sake of one character I really liked. Because then he's just posed on his own. He stick out like a sore thumb. It's not going to work for me. I think this is one of those ones where if you wanted to complete this line, it's very doable because there's not many figures from it, you know? But you really want to commit, I think. So for me, I'm not going to commit to... As much as I like this episode, I didn't absolutely like love the series as a whole, and I wasn't like blown away by it, but I did think this guy was the most memorable part of the whole series. Petrifying, like some of the things.
It honestly, it almost highlights a little bit how little Thanos truly used the Infinity Stones in his gauntlet. Like how like little power he actually wielded with it. When you see Ultron and how he wields the power, it was like you said, devastating.
in a microsecond, he could go like, I'm just going to wipe everything out, and I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be in the Matrix training upload field surrounded by white or whatever, like in a light box. What do I do now? Oh, well, I'll just bring him back. It's boring now. You know, it's like he can do whatever he wants. And I thought that was like, I know it was meta the right word, but it was just, it was cool. Because I was watching it kind of going, wait a second, he can just do this. And then he just did some of the things I was thinking about. It was almost like the writers were, okay, what will the audience think? I thought that was really cool. It's well worth a watch if you haven't watched it.
Totally. And I think the art, like the artistic style of this particular 6-scale figure is interesting. Like when I look at some of the other offerings from What If so far, you know, Captain Britain, the Steve Rogers, like they still look very animated. Whereas to me, this one is like almost a bit of a hybrid. Like you can tell that it comes from the animated show, but like I still think that this could fit with a movie realistic representation, mainly because he's got that Vision head sculpt underneath. It's kind of like he's a synthetic being to begin with. So I think you could still fit it in if you only wanted one of them. But Chris, I'd, be curious for you then as well. Like, what would you say, like, would you give any advice, or not necessarily advice, but what would you tell collectors who are interested in this figure but maybe haven't bought some of the other offerings from What If so far? Do you think that this is one that can, stand on its own in a collection, or do you feel like it needs companion pieces to develop that line?
I think that it just fits, like aesthetically, there's a lot going on that is directly referential to the MCU movies, just like even the shape of the sort of Ultron helmet and all that. So I think it fits in just fine. And like this was What If was a great idea for a show. This is a memorable sort of hybrid character. I don't think the idea of being complete on every subline of Marvel stuff will drive you mad. You'll have 7 Iron Mans and stuff like that. So if this does it for you, I say go for it. But yeah, I don't know. It looks like, from what I can remember, it looks really faithful to the art from the animation. So I think that's always good when they're possibly mishmashing parts together and trying to save money. But it doesn't look like there would have been a lot of room to do that here. So sure. I like it.
Look at this picture on the left, with Ultron holding Captain Britain by the face like that. Like, that's amazing. As I said, the blogger photos lately they're up in their game. They are up
brave
in their game, for sure.
Her hair doesn't look great from behind.
No.
That's why I was saying earlier. Like, it's kind of like the Ultron looks a bit like a hybrid version that could maybe fit in with the more movie realistic figures, whereas the animated ones are
changeable, isn't it? I think
it is.
That's why there's a dirty seam line.
I never noticed the seam line before, but like in terms of the paint apps, for sure, it's a little on the plasticky side. But I want to hear from the chat as well. Again, I read all the comments, so tell me what you guys think down below. Are you interested in picking this figure up? Should we reconsider it? Are we all batshit crazy? We're all out to lunch. We're crazy if we don't buy this guy. Why are we not? I'd love to hear from you in the comments there. Guys, it has been a great show. Thank you so much for joining me. I will let you know I am in Las Vegas from Wednesday until next Wednesday this week. So next Sunday we will not have a Let's Get Nuts episode, but we will pick it up the following Sunday. So, of course, any of you guys are absolutely welcome anytime. Thank you again. Pete, you told us a little bit about what's coming, but tell us again what's coming up on Only Fools and Collecting, or OFAC on Collecting Weekly for you, good sir. Tell me what's up.
So OFAC is back on Thursday. We've been chatting to Andy from Iconic, and he's very keen to come on. It's perfect timing because it's Thursday the 6th of April, and that's the day that the Ken pre-order goes up. And as we know before, he'll probably have one in hand and he can show us on screen and stuff.
Wow.
And we really want to build up the hype for this, and and help get some pre-orders, which hopefully we did with Ryu. So it's going to be a great show, and obviously we're kind of gonna go just do a normal show, and obviously as everybody knows, myself, Shane and Chris are all going to be at a celebration the coming weekend. So we're all looking forward to meeting up, and then obviously we might do a special the week after, to concentrate on the show and what we saw there and everything. So yeah,
For sure. I'd love to get you back
Exciting week
on.
coming up.
I'd love to get you back on a Let's Get Nuts episode after that event has gone down, so I can kind of pick your brain a little bit about what you saw there, or some of the highlights, maybe some of the things you'd recommend they do for future celebrations. I know that this celebration came really close to the last year's, right? Like normally I think they stagger it every other year, but I think because of COVID they already had this one planned, so that's why we got a chance to see the two celebrations year after year. But we probably won't get one next year. It'll probably be another year gap, so it'll be curious to see how this one goes, being so close to last year's. I will also be curious to see this year if they announce a Star Wars movie. Are we going to get a new film? Hard to know. Chris, thank you again for coming on the show for the first time. Chris over at Small Talk is where I saw you briefly the other day on Collecting Weekly YouTube channel as well. But tell us more, Chris, about you, what you got coming up, about your life. Why should people listen to you? Because you're an awesome guy. Let's be honest.
All right. Well, I'll just give a quick minute to shout out the Vintage Rebellion podcast, which I'm helping out at Celebration. They've got a panel on the collector's stage and the podcast stage, which I think is called the HoloNet stage. So anybody at Celebration, they could check out the Vintage Rebellion at 1 p.m. on Monday. And that for the HoloNet stage, and that show is really focused on the vintage collecting stuff. A lot of those guys are in the UK, so they sort of focus on the Palatoy variations of everything. But you can follow the Vintage Rebellion podcast on YouTube for a lot of that content.
Very cool. We will check that out. And if you can send me the link actually after the stream, I'll put it in the YouTube comments down below there. So we can get everybody connected. Same with you, Pete, because I really want people to see that video with Andy. I think that's going to be a really cool watch.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Shane sent me something in the back here. So Mr. Shane, one of the hardest working YouTube people out there for sure. You're constantly releasing content, buddy, and your channel's doing very well because you're a lovely guy. So tell me about what's coming up on your channel. There, good sir. And you are on mute, just so you know.
Oh no, I was just saying I'm actually not that nice.
Okay, well, it's not that nice. I hate to say it.
So basically, there's a bunch of this. I just had this from earlier on. So this is just the stuff that's on my channel at the moment. There's a review of the In-Art Joker, small figure. No one's really talking about it. This is just my collection of this things that I've noticed that we all say we're all guilty of them. There's 4 episodes so far. Most of the phrases in this and the other 3 episodes, I say myself, we are all guilty of saying some, if not all of them. Just some opinions on this figure and this figure and this figure and this figure, and this was
it's a lot of oh my god, sleep.
This one's gonna go live tomorrow. I was really enthusiastic making it. So that's they're basically the videos that are live are coming to the channel. Loads of shorts on the In-Art Joker because despite the QC issues I have encountered with it, I do think it's a banger, and I do think it's a win, and I'm very happy, and I do think it's worth the money and the hassle. But there's a few things I had to comment on that they need to address. Like, but no, it's just that's the stuff on the channel now at the moment. Going to Celebration. Hopefully, I'll get to see
So
maybe
jealous.
these gentlemen here and Ben,
Yeah,
Attention Seeking
definitely.
Geek, and reviews at Rich and Layel and Triple G and James C. Keegan and a bunch of people like Calvin, and just so like really looking forward to that. And yeah, just thanks very much for having me. And I'll actually I'm only there Thursday. I'm there Friday and Saturday, and then I fly back on Sunday. So I don't know if there's a slot open. I can come on next Sunday and just give you a rundown on how it was, Ben. So
For sure.
yeah.
It'll be not. So I'm again in
Oh,
Vegas
sorry, you're
next
away.
Sunday,
You're in,
but the following
in
Sunday will
Vegas,
be.
yeah,
So
gotcha,
if you're still on it, let us know for sure.
Yeah,
I think this time slot's still working for most people. I know some people in the chat have requested about an hour later. If I want Pete on the channel, which I always want Pete here because I love his opinion, it's getting pretty late an hour later. And to be honest with you, it's nice for me that this ends at about 5 o'clock on a Sunday because I still have time to have dinner with Shauna, which I know she appreciates.
Yeah, because it's midnight here, and that's just about
sure.
okay. I mean, obviously, for Shane, if he was work the next day, he wouldn't want to be doing that. Not on a
Couldn't do it.
Monday with those kids. Yeah. I can
100%.
kind of get away with it a bit more because I work from home. But it's this is the perfect time, to be honest, for us here.
For sure. But everybody in the chat and you guys on the panel, again, thank you so much for coming for this new episode of Let's Get Nuts. If you guys have missed any of the previous weeks, I definitely recommend you tune in. I typically have different panelists on every show. Every episode has been a little different and a little divisive and a little exciting and a little funny as well. So I definitely recommend those episodes. If you're dry next Sunday and don't know what to watch something on replay. And then you will see us the following Sunday again for another episode of Let's Get Nuts. To everybody in the chat who support the Ben Thomas Show and who support all of my friends here in the panel, as well as some of those others like Marco and Collecting Weekly and Big Bretta and all of the people that I always forget to say, make sure you connect to those guys as well, because without content, I don't know what I would do every day with myself. I'm not going to lie. The Sundays would start to get a little bit boring. But with that said, everybody, for the Ben Thomas Show, you'll see more live streams coming. For me, I got a Goliath NECA gargoyle this past week, which I was really excited about. Collecting Weekly, we've temporarily lifted the ban on NECA. So I bought myself the gargoyle. I'm going to review that on the channel here soon with some shorts. As well as I got the Master Splinter to finally go with my other Ninja Turtles. Also NECA, I really took advantage of that break in NECA there. So I got permission from the Oxfather. It was okay. When I redo my collecting cabinets and behind me, out in the other room, I've got my Batman animated scale figures up on the top shelf, which are all 7-inch scale. These guys, the Turtles, are going to be behind me in the room here. So I've already got the thing planned out. I'm excited about that. But I'll also do a collection tour 2.0 very, very soon. My collection room and YouTube studio has changed dramatically since my last video. So if you guys watched my last collection tour, thank you. It is very different, so stay tuned for the next one. But with that, guys, once again, I say thank you for being here. We will catch you guys on the next show. I will be back. Thanks again. Let's get nuts.
I'll be back.